So
hit our motherfucking music. Hello, fellow snows, hoes, ugly blokes, and millennial jokes, and welcome to the Masters of Gaming podcast, episode number 20. I'm your co-host with the most, SynthR, joined by my host, the 75% off coupon on top of my clearance sale, the McDonald's dollar menu to my overpriced portion sizes, Sizer.
okay, you just really fucked that up, dude. There's like the
What?
one line. There's the one line in there where you just change the one line every week, and there's a whole rhyming scheme that goes into this, and you just like didn't do that at all. I don't understand what this was.
Oh, I've never noticed that the beginning intro rhymes at all.
I feel like that's impossible because it literally fucking rhymes. Every fucking word. Well, not everyone, but most of them.
Well, I'm usually on my phone when you do it, and then I just start talking.
Yeah, but I mean, I sent you over the script for what it was, and you know us to switch out the one line. I don't really know what you're doing here. Like, you kind of just fucked this whole thing up right from the get go.
Well,
Do you not
want me
understand
to-
like how rhyming works? You know how like words that rhyme. The one line that I change every week is like based on the topic, so it's topical and it rhymes. And that's what makes it fun to do, is because I have to make it topical, and I also have to figure out a way to make it rhyme with the other words. That's the fun of it.
Sorry. What?
I mean, I just don't understand what you're not getting about this. But you know, I guess I have to show you how this goes. All right. Oh yeah, it's your boy Zizer coming with that flow. They will knock you to the flow. Yeah, Masters of Gaming, all up in your stereo, bringing you all the latest news you need to know, and telling you if these games is worth your dough. And here your man X-Man on the verse. You know what I'm saying, bro? I feel like you're not understanding my flow, and maybe I should just let it go, but no. The intro was a sacred part of the show. All I needed from you was quid pro quo. Instead I got nothing but rhymes from Skid Row. Your rhymes is hollow, your style is shallow, and nothing like that Zizer afterglow. You're the Vanilla Ice to my Edgar Allan Poe. You're the TJ Hicks to my Deuce Bigelow. Your rap game should be DJ Potato, 'cause you ain't fit for primetime radio.
Yeah, boy! That was my man, X-Man. This is your DJ Potato. Spit some ill rhymes down here. Yeah, for the best of your gaming. Yeah, boy! Woo! Yeah, Cloud Strife. Yeah, Sephiroth, motherfucker! Bitch! That was pretty sick, man.
I mean, this is what I do. I mean, that's that American flow. You know what I'm saying?
I got you from the streets.
Yeah, from the streets. But so I've got a surprise for you on the show today.
Really?
I didn't tell you about this. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of drop it to you on the spot. So I've been working on this behind the scenes for a little while now. I've been trying to come up with an AI companion for our show.
Oh.
And he's going to sort of work like Jamie from the Joe Rogan podcast, where he just pulls up facts and shit that we need to know, like on the fly. So his name, his little designation right now is like X1-Z0R, Zizer. And so so let me introduce you to fucking X1 is what we're gonna call him for short for right now. Hello, SynthR. How do you like that Canadian to American dollar value?
Program sarcasm into that fucking rust bucket.
Oh yeah, man. I'm gonna have him with some jokes. He's gonna have a very high sarcasm meter. I'm gonna turn that up pretty high, and his comedy stuff and stuff like that is gonna be off the charts. So he's gonna be able to make jokes and tell us facts and stuff like that. I just think it's gonna be a great addition to the show. I
think it's kind of interesting that he sounds like you. Like, that's how much did you pay for this?
Well, I mean, I just buying a bunch of parts and stuff like that. It's kind of like building a computer. I just had to put some parts together that I bought offline off eBay and Amazon. Kind of built this little thing. He's built out of like Roombas and fucking vacuum cleaners and computers and stuff like that. And so I've just been kind of working on him and kind of coding him the last couple of weeks, getting it together. He's not quite done yet, But he's coming along. At least we have Cookie Crisp cereal in Freedom Land. Have fun chopping up your Keebler Elf chocolate chip cookies and dumping them into milk for breakfast, you French dork. Whoa, excellent. Jesus, calm down. I didn't want him to be this sassy, like right off the bat. Fucking Christ.
I don't mind it. It's kind of funny, man.
So he's got X1's got some jokes for you. You wanna tell SynthR the jokes you prepared for him?
Yeah, let's hear these.
So SynthR, how does a Canadian hold up their hair? With mousse. Hey SynthR. Hey SynthR. What do you call a Canadian sitcom about a naive boy? Leave it to Bieber. Hey SynthR. Why don't Canadian women wear sleeveless dresses? They aren't allowed to bear arms. Hey SynthR. What do Canadians strive for on their test? Straight A's.
It's pretty good. He should go to Just for Laughs in Montreal.
Yeah, he's fucking killing it up in here. This is going to be a fun episode. We're going to have fucking jokes and a robot on. This is going to be fucking exciting.
This is a pretty big surprise. Like, you rapped and you built a fucking robot.
Yeah, you did the intro and fucked it all up from the get-go. But we're going to recover here. We're recovering pretty quickly. I think I brought us back up to level here. Yeah, so topic of the week this week is going to be biggest tragedies in gaming history. After that will be the what the fuck we're playing this week, which is going to be some Hob, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Way Remastered, and Contradiction. After that will be followed by the questions and answers as always. Now, this podcast is available on all podcasting platforms such as iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Music, and tons more. And lastly, our YouTube channel is fully operational and hosts full episodes, segment clips, and smaller highlights from our shows. Simply search for Bastards of Gaming on YouTube and be sure to hit the subscribe button while there to stay up to date.
Are you part of the Bastards community? No? Well, join the fucking conversation and engage with us by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/bastardsofgaming. Each week we share your thoughts and feedback on our show. Subscribe to us on YouTube and rewatch clips from past episodes. Simply search for Bastards of Gaming. Lastly, we would love if you could leave us some honest reviews on our Facebook ratings page or in the podcast platform you use to listen to us, such as iTunes. Those reviews will go a long way in helping us build this podcast and community.
Topic of the week this week. Biggest tragedies in gaming history. Now, we kind of compiled a list here of what I think most gamers would consider like the biggest travesties and fucking debacles in video game history. We got some of our personal picks toward the end here. So we're going to start off with what is probably the biggest tragedy, maybe not the biggest, but certainly a catastrophic one that happened, which was the video game crash of 1983. Now I'm going to get X1 to recite some facts for us. X1, tell us about the video game crash of 1983. In 1983, an influx of expensive, crappy games for consoles flooded North America and effectively collapsed the entire video game market in the U.S. The E.T. movie tie-in is the poster boy for the whole period, after Atari managed to make more cartridges than there were consoles and ended up burying most of them in a New Mexico landfill site. This lasted for 2 years, during which video games almost ceased to exist in the U.S. Things were only turned around in 1985 with the launch of the Nintendo Entertainment System. Although major stores only agreed to sell that once Nintendo convinced them it was really a toy, not a console, thanks to add-ons like Rob the Robot. It would be nice if I had a proper name like Rob Zeiser, so I could be more human-like. Ooh, damn. Well, don't worry, X1. That's just your code name for right now, my child. Soon you will grow to become much more once I finalize some bits of code. So don't you worry there, little man. So what do you think about, this? I mean, I was like 2 years old when this video game crashed. It's like only a thing that I heard about in retrospect.
I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy to think about like console gaming pretty much almost died like right when it got started,
Yeah,
they were just
it's crazy.
Shoving all this fucking like shovelware shit, just like making any kind of fucking crap. It's like almost like mobile games are today. Just like throw a bunch of trash at the wall, and then people are like, "Nah, we don't want this shit," and so it's done.
Well, sometimes things need to break down before they get better. Maybe that was it. And then I was born at the end of the year, and then lo and behold, video games are the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, you're like the Messiah.
Yeah.
You're like the Messiah of video games. Along with SynthR came the rebirth of video games.
All right. So No Man's Sky was another huge, big disappointment because it was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, hype train we've ever fucking seen for a video game. Now, if you're not familiar with No Man's Sky, it is like an open world sandbox space simulator where you can run around on a planet, terraform it, collect tons of shit so you can like put fuel in your spaceship, take off from the planet, go into space, into orbit, fly around, go to another planet, rinse and repeat. So basically, this sounded amazing to pretty much every fucking video gamer in existence. So this was revealed in 2013, and people literally lost their shit over the amount of scope that was being fucking peddled by Sean Murray, who's like one of the creators of the game. And Sean Murray would go on to talk shows and do tons of interviews and stuff. I personally remember him going on Conan O'Brien, and they were showing gameplay footage, which was obviously staged, but they're showing gameplay footage of like flying onto a planet, landing, getting out, seeing different types of flora and fauna and stuff like that, and being able to name the plants and the animals. And Sean Murray's like, oh, there's going to be different flora and fauna on every planet you go to, and every planet's going to have like a different biome and all this shit. And when it was released, it was basically like an alpha version of a game. It was just like a complete piece of shit. Overpromised piece of shit. It didn't have like multiplayer like it was supposed to have. You go to different planets and you'd see very similar animals because they were supposed to all look different. And there's like, I don't know how many planets or stars they had in the game, but there's like billions. And it's basically just like copy and pasting the same shit all around the universe, basically. And it's been like how many years now? Like 6 years, and the game is still alive. It's still being supported.
It's only been like 3 years.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, it came out in like 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been about 3 years, which makes more sense. 6 years would be a long time, but it's still getting updates and stuff. And I played it, I think, last year, and I bounced off it again. I was like, it's still not the game that was promised. It's not fun.
Yeah, I'm going to try it out again. I was going to do it before the podcast because they added the VR update to it. And I think that'll be fun just to roam around and fly around in VR. But yeah, I picked it up. I got it day one, and it is still pretty impressive for what it is. I mean, basically, it's like this almost procedurally generated universe but everyone shares it. And it's like so big. There's like trillions of planets and shit in there that you would seemingly never come across someone else. And so what he said early on is like, oh yeah, you could see other players if you ran into them, but the likelihood of that happening is very small because you get started at a random part of this gigantic universe that just spans like trillions of planets and huge solar systems. And I don't know, it's cool that, it's cool how you go in there and you can name stuff and, name animals and like valleys and planets and moons and stuff like that. Like all that stuff was pretty cool, but yeah, it was just like, oh yeah, you're never gonna come across another player. And then like I think within the first couple days, 2 people that were like streaming the game or something like that happened to be on a planet, the same planet, and they tried to meet up and they couldn't see each other. So that was a lie, just right off the bat. And yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I played it for about a week. I kind of enjoyed it a little bit, but there just wasn't a whole lot to it. Like there was like a thin little quest line that you could follow where you somehow get to the middle of the universe or something like that. I don't know. I never finished it because I bounced off of it. But I don't know. You just kept running into the same kind of structures, the same kind of aliens that said the same shit on every planet. And it was just like, it wasn't quite there. Like it was a really good foundation for a game. And like I said, I still think it's pretty impressive that you have a game that's that fucking massive. Like I don't even know how you program an algorithm to generate that and then make it like a shared universe and stuff like that. So it's just cool to think that like I have a whole entire like TMA system out there that someone will probably stumble upon one day of where I just named everything after old TMA jokes and like posters there, people's like gamer tags and inside jokes between us and the community and stuff like that. And it's like, it's cool that I just have that. Like people could just stumble upon it So stuff like that's pretty cool. But yeah, overall, the game wasn't what I think. I think the problem though is like people let their imaginations run away from them when they were thinking about this game. And Sean Murray definitely didn't help by just being like, oh yeah, you'll be able to do this and this and this. He's kind of like almost like a Peter Molyneux figure where he's just like promising things that weren't, actually possible. And I do think he had the best of intentions as far as like what he wanted to do. But yeah, I think people just kind of let their imaginations run away from when they first saw this game and Sean Murray was out there talking about it. Because I think we all had our own little ideas of what we would want to do or what we would want a game like this to be, where you could just explore entire galaxies and solar systems and fly around the spaceship and meet strange creatures and aliens. And I think we all had an idea of what we thought that game should be. And so I think part of the problem, even though, again, the game was overhyped and overpromised on, is I think everyone just kind of just let their imagination get the best of them in that sense. And I think that's why a lot of people were kind of disappointed with it at the end. It's like people were like, "Oh, I wanted this thing. I wanted to have me and a bunch of my friends be able to run around the planet and build a base and explore together." And none of that was possible. So it's a still thing where like they're going to continue to build on this and make it something better. But I don't know. It definitely caused a lot of fucking chaos when it came out. Like people were losing their minds over the disappointment of this game, and fucking Reddit blew up, and
people are getting refunds and everything. I remember that.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
like Sony was offering refunds for the game, and Sean Murray just like basically went into hiding. Was like, I'm just not going to interact with people, and he's like, I'm just going to shut my mouth and not talk about this game and just put out updates, and then I'll just slowly make it better. And I commend them for continuing to work on this and try to make it better. I think a lot of developers would have just been like, well, fuck it, like on to the next thing. But they've been doing the right thing and trying to make it the game that they promised. So,
which is weird. It's like, where are they getting the money to sustain this like development of extra stuff?
Well, I mean, they made a shit ton of money off this game. Don't get me wrong. They're a small studio, and this was basically a AAA title, and they sold a shit ton. And even last year when they did that big update to it, they said that they sold even more copies around that time. Because some people were like, well, I didn't pick this up at launch because I heard it was trash, so I'm going to pick it up now. And probably with this update that came out just this past week, they're probably going to sell even more copies. So I think it's been pretty profitable for them. But
it's crazy. It's crazy that they can fuck up this hard and recover. Like, because usually in the climate that we're in today, like you fuck up right away, you're done. Like it's over.
Well, I mean, we're seeing a lot of games try to do this. Destiny had a rough launch. I mean, we've had like
they
Anthem.
have money. They have the money to ram it down in Activision.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. It's crazy. But No Man's Sky is going to be an ongoing conversation for many years, I believe. All right. Speaking of people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, let's talk about Peter Molyneux, the king of overpromising. Now, Peter Molyneux has always been quite the character as a prominent figurehead that has been in the industry since the 80s because he is the ultimate PR bullshit con man. With his monotone British charm, you somehow always kind of believe what he says. And while I do believe his passion about the games he's making, I also think he would be the first person to sell a woman with white gloves a ketchup popsicle. So let me tell you a fun little story about how Peter Molyneux got started in video games. Now, I don't know if you know this story, Cynthia, but I think this is kind of funny. And I think this just shows you how he was probably always going to be. So early on, old Pete Molly, old Peter Molly knew you were going to buy his games regardless, actually tried to make and distribute his own game called, ironically enough, The Entrepreneur. And it turned out to be a colossal failure. So old Pimo changed directions and started this company called Taurus that exported baked beans to the Middle East. And then, this is all true. You can look it up. Then randomly, Commodore International, which was an American home computer and electronics manufacturer, mistook his company name Taurus for another company called Taurus, which was a more established company that produced like networking software. And they offered to provide Molyneux with 10 free Amiga systems to help in making this database program for the Amiga. And so, to quote Peter Molyneux when asked about this later on in an interview, "It suddenly dawned on me that this guy didn't know who we were. I suddenly had this crisis of conscience. I thought, if this guy finds out, there go my free computers down the drain. So I shook his hand and ran out that office." So basically, Taurus designed this fucking database system for the Amiga called Acquisition, the ultimate database for the Amiga. And like after clearing up like a misunderstanding with Commodore, they actually released the program and were allowed to keep the computer. So basically, he conned fucking Commodore in the beginning into giving him free fucking computers under the guise that he would make this program for him. And he did, while at the same time like using the Amiga computers to start up his own like video game company, Bullfrog Productions, which went on to make Populous, Syndicate, and Dungeon Keeper. So that's the origin stories of fucking Peter Molyneux in the game.
I didn't know that. That is incredible, really. Like, holy shit. That's incredible.
Yeah, I found out about that like earlier this year, last year sometime. I was listening to this IGN podcast where they were interviewing, and he was telling that story, and I'm just like, holy shit. I mean, like the odds of like just breaking into the games industry in that way is pretty fucking remarkable. But I can't say I might not have done the same thing if I'd have been in his shoes. You know what I mean?
Sure, but it's just beans.
Yeah. Just like, how do you get started with a fucking bean company that ships beans to the Middle East? Like, well, how do you start a company like that? Like, I mean, I'm guessing there's a need for it. That's why you do it. But like, it's a weird thing to go from like, I'm going to try to make video games to like, I'm just selling beans. I don't know. It's just it's a funny story. But anyways, to get back to what he's doing for gaming, or what he has done to gaming and gamers. So he started over-promising things in Fable that never made it into the games, such as, letting you have children, that the game would span your hero's whole lifetime, that you could knock an acorn off a tree and slowly, over the course of the game, watch it grow into a tree of its own. He said you could carve your initials into a tree and come back years later and it would still be there. And the internal team.
Why would we want these things anyway? You know what I mean? I remember hearing it when I was younger, and I was like, "Why the fuck would I write my name in a tree? Carve it."
Yeah,
who cares?
I don't know. He just wanted to always like push the boundaries of technology, and he always thought these little things would like make his games super unique, and they just never did. And his internal team at Lionhead was like always at with his bold claims, because half the time they never knew these features were supposed to be in the games, like the co-op and stuff that was in Fable 2 and stuff like that. And there's even like an acorn growing into a tree that was added into Fable 2 as a joke because of his stupid acorn bullshit. But I don't know. This has went on for years and various different things. Like when he demoed Milo for Kinect at E3 one year, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but you had this like virtual boy that you could converse with on the screen, and he would know you by your voice and pick up on your emotions, and you could like interact with him like no video game character ever. And you would like draw stuff on a piece of paper, and then you would like hold it up in front of the Kinect, and the Kinect would scan it in, and then he would get a version of it in game, and he would look at your drawing or whatever you wrote and be able to react to it. And even at the time, you were just like, shut the fuck up with this shit. Like, what are you even, like, what is this? Like, what is this supposed to be a game, or is this just like a fucking virtual human pet? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this? Like, you're just going to have this little boy that's hanging out in your Xbox all day while you're gone. You come home and just talk to fucking Milo and ask him if he did his homework and shit. It's real fucking dumb. Do you remember this at all?
I vaguely remember it now that you mentioned it.
Science fiction writers, filmmakers, they haven't imagined what we're able to do today. We've been experimenting with something here. I'd like you to meet a boy called Milo. He's a character that can recognize us, he can recognize our faces, he can recognize our voices, he can recognize emotions in us. And this is Claire. She's going to introduce you to Milo.
Hi, I'm Milo. How you doing?
Hi, Claire. You okay?
Actually, I'm a bit nervous.
You? Nervous? I don't believe it.
This is the first time that thousands of people are going to see this.
Thousands of people?
Here we're seeing Claire being recognized, and the emotion in Claire's voice being recognized, and that emotion reflecting in Milo's face. Those are all being seen for the first time.
You've got to put these goggles on.
Goggles? Like that?
Claire has been thrown a pair of goggles. Notice what she did. This wasn't acted. She felt the need to reach down for those goggles. Now, everybody, every single person that has experienced this reaches down because they feel so connected to Milo's world.
Cool. All right.
Every hand movement is being recognized. Being able to touch fish, being able to swish the water with her hand, Everyone who's experienced it, the hairs are standing up on the back of their head. Now, what's about to happen is some real magic.
Well, you're good at drawing.
They're only fish, but they're trickier than you think.
Well, here, I'll have a go. Right. I'm going to do a body and a tail with a big fin and a smiley face. There we go. What do you think?
Look at what just happened.
Orange.
Claire drew a picture on a piece of paper. The piece of paper was held up to Milo. Natal recognized the piece of paper, scanned the piece of paper in. Milo looked at that piece of paper, recognized the shape, recognized the color, and able to get on with his
Thanks
project.
for your help, Claire.
This is true technology that science fiction has not even written
Don't
about.
forget your mum's birthday.
And this works today, now.
Thank you very much. I hope you agree. This is a landmark in computer entertainment.
Yeah, it's just super fucking funny. But yeah, he went on to do more stuff. I mean, there's almost too much to name. You could almost do an entire topic on Peter Molyneux, but he dropped like promising features from this crowdfunded game called Goddess to focus on a different mobile game. He was like switching his game studios there for a while. I mean, he was like a big prominent guy at one point, like running his own studio, and then he was like one of the big heads at like Microsoft for a while, and now he just kind of works at this shitty little company and doesn't say much.
I think it's funny that most of the games that he's made have dealt with morality. Like there was Black and White, Dungeon Keeper, the Fable games, Goddess had that stuff in it too. But he made his career like just hyping the shit out of stuff that never made it in. It's ridiculous. And I saw a quote, and to directly quote him, he said, "The trouble is I'm a terrible PR person." And it took him like decades to figure this out. Like your first failure from the first Fable should have told you your shit to get off the camera, you know? Like
Yeah, I mean, it was bad back then, but you almost kind of just like laughed it off. And I was never like super invested in the Fable game, so it was just like, whatever, man. He can say whatever he wants. I don't really care. Like, it didn't become a problem until it was like literally every fucking game he started talking about. You were like, what kind of bullshit is he gonna say about this fucking game that's not gonna be true, you know? And then eventually, everyone just kind of turned on him one day. They're like, can you just not anymore? Like, just go fuck off somewhere. And like, it was kind of sad listening to him in that interview last year. He just kind of seemed defeated after just being beat up by the fucking games journalists and shit for a year or so there.
well, fuck him. Whatever. He'll be back one day. Probably won't stay down.
Nah.
So this past week, we put it out to our fans, asking them what kind of things were tragic and pissed you off throughout video game history. And we had a good friend of ours, Dim Shades, write in that the death of the Dreamcast is what I would define as a tragedy in gaming history. Such a great console that had such a short lifespan. R.I.P.
Hey, SynthR, why did Sonic go to the doctor?
I don't know.
Because he had the runs.
Oh, gotta go fast.
X1 coming in with a fucking solid joke there. But yeah, I mean, Sega going under, I don't know. I have this weird fondness for the Dreamcast that I just can't explain. I mean, I definitely liked the console, and I still have one. It's still set up in my little retro station over here, and I'll play it sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. It was just, at the time, I didn't really care as much, really. I don't know, it just didn't really feel like it was the most important thing. I was kind of turning into like a PlayStation and Xbox kind of guy at that point more than, you know, Sega. I was never a Sega guy to begin with. I mean, I had the Genesis and I had a Game Gear for a little while when I was younger. But yeah, I don't know. But there's just something like the farther I get away from the Dreamcast, the more of a fondness I have for it. And I'm hoping to one day have like a fully complete collection of all the Dreamcast games, like in the case with the fucking manuals and everything. I've got some of them, but I don't know. I got really into collecting them for a moment there, and I just made myself stop. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know. But yeah,
it did have some good games. It did have some good games. Oh yeah,
for sure.
So I was actually a Sega kid growing up. I had my Genesis. I had the Sega Master System before then. So I was always big into Sega. I wasn't a huge like Sonic fan, but like Sega's like my jam. Everybody else had Nintendos, Super Nintendos and stuff. But just to run through like the Sega history of like how it fell basically. So Sega came in, first ever console wars, went toe to toe with the Super Nintendo by marketing their console for an older generation. So I remember the commercials were they're edgy. They're edgy, yeah. And they were for like more like an adult crowd instead of the kids. And Nintendo was always driving it toward family and kids, safe kind of stuff. So They were heavy into marketing to the older generation. Then they released the Sega CD in North America in 1992, so people could play CD-based games. To quote a review, it says, "The problem was threefold with the Sega CD. The device was expensive at $299. So remember, this is 1992, so that's $300. I guess today it'd probably be like $700-800. I don't know. It arrived late in the 16-bit life cycle, and it didn't do much, if anything, to enhance the gameplay experience." And then,
except for those FMVs, bro. We gave it sweet FMV games, you know.
I guess it was before its time, like with Sewer Shark, which I don't know if it came with it or not. And it reminded me of like Aliens, like Hicks, like telling you like to pilot this thing through the sewers. But yeah, I guess you're right. Like the FMVs probably were cool back then. Then 2 years later, Sega brought out the 32X, which was meant to bridge the Genesis into the 32-bit era, but it ultimately failed because it wasn't supported. And then the Sega Saturn came soon after in 1995. And even though it has some beloved exclusives, it was ultimately beaten back by Sony's first console entry, which is, as we know, the PlayStation, and the unstoppable force known as Nintendo, who were just riding the wave of success at that time. So then the final nail in the coffin came with the innovative Dreamcast console, which was released in 1999. It was actually, September 9th, 1999? 9999999, whatever the fuck it was.
99999.
Yeah, whatever. So it came out in 1999, and it basically came out just before juggernauts like the PS2, the Xbox, and the GameCube were released. And the Nintendo 64 was already out and going super strong. So it was in this like precarious position in between like two generations. So it was I don't know if it was bound to fail, but it was almost like this is it. This is your swan song. Like and that was it basically. Like Sega got wiped out. But it was the first console to ever have online multiplayer. And that was interesting. And it was the first console that you got to look at porn on.
Well, we've talked about that before. But the only thing you failed to mention was that like why it went under. And a major reason was like it was easy to hack it and like duplicate the games. So people weren't buying a lot of the games. They just found a way where they could rip them. This was kind of like around the time where people started like pirating games a lot, and it was just so easy to like pirate all the Dreamcast games. And so the fact that it was not the most popular platform at the time, and you know people were just basically stealing the games that they wanted to play on it, and so that was kind of what put it under. But yeah, it was just a way ahead of its time in a lot of ways too, because you think about, you know, first it was the first console to have, you know, an internet port on the back where you could get online and surf the web and play multiplayer games, which I didn't really take much of an advantage of back then. Like I don't really remember playing too many games. I don't think I played any, to be honest with you, because I feel like the games that they had were like for multiplayer, just I don't know, it's just something about it. I just really wasn't that interested in it. But yeah, I don't. And then the games that you would want to play online, like, didn't have, you know, online stuff like Power Stone and, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, then you had the little what is it, the VMU? Is that what it's called? And the little
on the controller
thing that goes into the controller where you would save all your stuff to, almost like a little memory card that would go into the controller, and you could play like little games on that. It was almost like a early idea of something like a Switch or something where you would take your games on the go or something. Like, I don't know, it was like kind of one of the first console handheld hybrid ideas, even though the games on it were super simple and shit. But I think it would have happened eventually either way, with, you know, the popularity of Xbox taking off, and, you know, the PS2 was just a fucking juggernaut of a console. So yeah, I think it was probably always going to happen. But it's kind of cool that at least Sega's still around in some form, you know.
Well, it spawned a whole bunch of classic games that people love, like Jet Set Radio, like Power Stone. Those games are great. Skies of Arcadia, Shenmue, which just got a new re-release. You know, like Sega still puts out some pretty good games. Just they don't do the console stuff anymore, which is fine. You know, and it's just interesting that they ended up getting in bed with Nintendo. You know, like they're mortal enemies at one point in time, and all of a sudden, like, you know what, you're familiar. Let's work together.
Hey, SynthR, what did Mario use to talk to the booze? A little Ouija board.
Is this fucking thing reading our show notes or something?
Yeah, like you're jumping ahead here, X1. Like, what the fuck? Like, you're getting, like, I don't know. Is he like hacking our shit? Like, what the fuck? He's clearly looking at our notes because we're about to talk about the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Jesus
Is he connected to Wi-Fi? Did you like set him up?
Yeah, he's connected, so I don't know.
Oh.
I guess it makes sense.
That might be a mistake. So, a good friend of mine, Jubei Kakarot, he actually told me about this a little while ago. So I had this in our notes already, but when we put it out there for some fan responses, he said that the Super Mario Brothers movie back in the 90s was a huge disappointment to him just because it was such a piece of shit movie. You know, like I remember it being pretty bad. I don't remember being disappointed. I just remember seeing it and being like, what is this? It makes no sense whatsoever. I do think it requires a rewatch. We should sit down and Mystery Science Theater this movie.
I definitely haven't seen it in a long time. But yeah, I remember watching it at the time and just being like, what the fuck is this movie? And I think that's what caused like Nintendo to just shut down this shit of like, no, we're not letting other people touch our properties anymore after this fucking mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like after that, they never really did anything like that again. You know what I mean? For a while, like they haven't.
They did
until
Double
recently.
Dragon or something. There's Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, but those aren't like Nintendo properties.
No, I know, but
you know what I'm saying. But yeah, but that's what kind of shut down like letting Mario appear in other things or be handled by other people that outside of Nintendo, you know. But yeah, I just don't. You know, I mean, the movie has like a really cool cast of people in it. Like it's got.
Why is John Leguizamo, who is Hispanic, be fucking Luigi? Like,
well, aren't they supposed to be like Italian or something anyway? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're Italian.
Yeah,
John Leguizamo's not Italian.
I know, but he could pass for it, maybe.
Oh my lord.
But yeah, I mean, it had like Bob Hoskins as Mario, and like Dennis Hopper as King Koopa, and Samantha Mathis as Daisy, Fisher Stevens as Iggy. Like, it had like a pretty decent cast of people, interesting cast, but it's just like, do you even remember what the story was for it though?
No,
I just can't remember.
I don't.
Yeah,
I remember being like
just,
Total Recall. Like it just had this post-apocalyptic sci-fi feel to it.
Yeah, it was just so fucking bizarre, man. Yeah, we should definitely revisit that. I mean, I would put that as one of my own, you know, biggest disappointments in gaming. But I thought the movie was kind of like bad in like a funny way, though. I don't know.
I have to watch it again. We should just
Yeah, we're
watch
gonna
it.
have to do
See.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey Zeiser, what do you think of Kojima leaving Konami?
It was a great tragedy. I wish it had never happened.
What if it actually happened because of Lila La Lo Lo and Shella Shashka?
We're gonna have to get some information from Otacon. I'm not sure about this.
Tasty.
It's a shame we didn't get Silent Hills. That would have been a cool game. Finally a good Silent Hill game made by Kojima. But no, because fuck Konami.
Konami's had so many great games, like remember Contra?
Yeah.
And how hard that game fucking
Castlevania.
was? Oh, Castlevania was pretty good. And the Konami code that everybody knows.
Yeah.
All those great Konami games.
But we never really figured out why Kojima left. Like, what happened? It just fell apart over there. Everything fell apart.
It's very strange.
But I am looking forward to Death Stranding. It's going to be cool to see him make something he really wants to make. And not be just a Metal Gear slave. I mean, for Christ's sake, we never even got another Zone of Enders.
All right. Can we
That's so
stop?
stupid. That's so bad, stupid.
But yeah, I mean, the downfall of Konami was kind of a tragic thing that happened over the last few years where they just kind of stopped giving a shit. But, you know, Konami, the big part of their business is not actually video games. Like, they sell those pachinko machines or whatever. Yeah, in, like, Japan, and they have, like, these gyms or, like, these health places. Like, they're involved in, like, other shit outside of gaming. And I think after like the 90s, like sort of the NES and Genesis era where they were just like pumping out all these really great games and fucking making hand over fist, I think as games got more and more expensive, they were a little bit more risky to make. I think they just kind of slowly just stopped giving a shit. But it was really terrible the way they treated Kojima back then. And like we don't really know what happened. No one really knows because it's a Japanese company and they don't really air their dirty laundry. And it was just like, hurry up and make this fucking Metal Gear 5, bro, and then peace out. Like I don't really remember all the events that happened around that. Do you?
No, honestly, like it was just a blur. I just remember Kojima leaving was like the biggest thing. And I was like, oh, okay, well, he's not going to quit the industry, so it's fine. And we probably won't get another like really good, really solid Metal Gear ever again, but you know, it is what it is. They had a good run.
Yeah, it's a shame because like Metal Gear Solid 5, at least from what other people have told me, still haven't played it yet, is that the game just kind of doesn't end in the best way. And it's kind of sad that's like the last Metal Gear game we're going to get. Like it kind of wraps up a lot of story threads and it's not too bad, but a lot of people were kind of disappointed with the ending of that game. It just seemed like it was kind of abrupt and like, well, this is all I'm going to do, and I just need to get on out of here now. And, you know, they tried to make that Metal Gear Survive game this year, which everyone shit on it. So, yeah, it's just a shame because Konami's probably just going to sit on these fucking properties now. We're never going to get another good Metal Gear, probably never going to get another Silent Hill game, probably never going to get another good Castlevania. Like, all this stuff that they're just going to sit on it. You know they are. Like, they could just sell it off or... you know, just have somebody that like passionately wants to make these games like come in and do it. But like I said before, they just don't really give a shit.
Selling those games off, though, might be a mistake because, as we'll see with the next area that we're going to move into, some of the games that get sold off just don't get the intimate and passionate treatment that they actually deserve from the new developers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a case-by-case basis, but I don't know. Like I said, it's just kind of a shame that once great Konami just means almost nothing now except for fucking sadness. Because like I said, back in the retro days, man, anytime I saw that Konami logo, I was like, this is going to be a good fucking game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of dying companies and selling off properties and stuff like that, we're going to talk about the downfall of THQ. Now, THQ used to be a big fucking company, almost like Activision and Ubisoft and all that until the generation before this one. But THQ was an abbreviation for Toy Headquarters. So I think the company was originally going to produce more toys than actual video games, and video games were just going to be like a small part of the company. But eventually they had their bread buttered once they got like the licensing to do games based on like kids shows and movies like SpongeBob shit, like a lot of Nickelodeon stuff, things like that. But hey, X1, why don't you read us some facts about the downfall of THQ? In 2009, huge declines in sales prompted THQ to form a strategic plan to cut $220 million in annual costs by 2010 and invest in fewer, better titles. Previously, in 2007, THQ had a $68 million profit and a $1 billion in revenue, which put it in range of their other rival, Activision. Many of the big-budget games sold poorly despite having favorable reviews. As the recession hit, its hold on kids' games based on Nickelodeon TV shows and Pixar movies slipped as kids turned to free online games playable on the internet. Yeah, so I mean, they just kind of a lot of random things happened all at one time. But what really put them under was in August of 2010, THQ unveiled the U-Draw tablet, which was a $70 accessory for Nintendo Wii that let gamers like draw on their and play on their television screens and stuff like that, like using a stylus. And that was, you know, in the height of the popularity of the Wii. So it's like almost anything you did and put it on the Wii was going to sell. So I think they were banking a lot in this. So, you know, THQ said, you know, more software would come for the U-Draw, you know, like every couple months after launch, and it didn't. And then November of 2011, they released the U-Draw for the PlayStation 3 and the 360, and it turned out to be a commercial failure and is widely considered to be the straw that broke the camel's back due to the, you know, mass-produced peripherals that no one wanted. And then in January of 2012, THQ announced that it was exiting the licensed kid game business to focus on adult core gaming, and also discontinued the U-Draw game tablet for the same reasons. And yada, yada, yada. After some, you know, desperate moving and shaking, the company eventually filed for bankruptcy and was denied and made to sell off all its properties, IPs, franchises, and assets. Like, this shit went all the way down to, like, they were selling, like, computers and, like, tables and shit in their office building. Like, they had to literally sell everything they could. So, you know, early on, we had, like, various bigger companies, like, they were kind of coming by to grab some of the bigger IPs. Like at that time, South Park, The Stick of Truth was under development at THQ. So Ubisoft bought that up. And then the Nickelodeon licenses were purchased by Activision. But, you know, ultimately a lot of the THQ properties were bought up by a company called Nordic, which is a weird anomaly in gaming right now because they've managed to acquire like tons and tons of studios and IPs and apparently have dozens of games in the works, yet we've seen very little output from all these apparent games that are in the making right now. And what we have seen thus far has been very underwhelming. Like, the Darksiders 3 that released last year wasn't as good as the other Darksiders games. But this company did rebrand itself in 2014 as THQ Nordic, so no one knows what the fuck is happening over there. But this company has an odd hard-on for continuing the THQ brand, and I don't know. It's just like it's been a weird fucking story with THQ and then Nordic coming in. It's like this company no one really knows about, and they just started buying up all these little THQ properties on the cheap, and now they're trying to make games again under the THQ brand. It's just so fucking weird. But yeah, man, I think we've both probably played like a numerous THQ games over the years.
Like some of the best, the best wrestling games were THQ back in the day, like WCW versus NWO, and the sequel Revenge. Is very simple gameplay, but so much fun. Like just hours of fun on the 64.
For sure.
And you mentioned Darksiders, like great world building and art and everything, but they kind of fucked that up. But who knows with the next one? I think it's Genesis is the next one. Darksiders Genesis.
Yeah, and it's almost like a Diablo style game in a way. Just like I'm just like, what are you guys doing over there, man? Like
they don't know how to handle 4 horsemen, so they're like, well, we'll just make it a 4-player game maybe, and some other shit.
But they have other stuff like Red Faction, and Saints Row was good until it just kind of got played out. I still think you could do something with Red Faction, man, and like Stalker back in the day, like the Warhammer, Dawn of War series, and stuff like that,
And the million fucking SpongeBob games.
Oh yeah, we need some more of that.
A TMA vet, Scold, he took a few seconds of his busy day playing fucking Rocket League all the goddamn time to give us an answer. And
Fortnite too. I just want to add.
Does he play Fortnite too?
I saw him playing Fortnite on the PlayStation, and I'm like, what is happening?
Man,
this is fucking cool. Now you're just a fucking loser.
Oh my god. Jeez. Well,
I'm just playing.
I'm not. Anyway, so he said pre-orders is a tragedy, which, I would say they've turned into a big piece of shit. Like all the stuff that you get when you pre-order, which is just junk, and they want you to like get the exclusives at different stores, and there's really no reason to pre-order. You can still get it the same day, unless like they have limited amount of copies and you have to pre-order in order to get one. I don't know. Pre-orders are pretty shit. And he also said digital delivery, and this one I think is a little open for interpretation.
Yeah, he never came back in and clarified exactly what he meant.
So I kind of thought he meant, say, like Microsoft only selling certain games as a digital copy so that they control the market and they can make it whatever price they want. And they don't have to like compete with like GameStop or Best Buy or anybody. So they just have the game and they can just set the price at what they want. That's what I assume he meant by that. I don't know if you took it a different way.
Either that or like, I guess we assumed that video games would be a little bit cheaper since you're cutting out the middleman and you're not mass producing these, games, these Blu-rays and the cover and the cover art and all this other stuff. You would think that maybe the games would be cheaper, but we really haven't seen a shift in the price, and
it's like $5 cheaper. So you're telling me that to manufacture the box, the disc, and ship it out and all this stuff and wrap it costs $5? Maybe, but come on,
I don't know.
The savings aren't there.
Yeah, well, all you're saving is the tax off of it. Yeah, so that's basically it. But like I said, I don't really know what he meant by that. And as far as pre-orders go, it's like I don't know. I never cared about this stuff. It's like almost never was anything you got for pre-ordering a game worth it. The only thing that ever was I could ever think of was when you pre-ordered Mass Effect 3 and you got that whole character that was like crucial to the fucking story. And if you didn't pre-order, you didn't get this one character. And it's just like the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my entire life.
Who was it?
He was like
I haven't played Mass Effect 3 in a long time. I played 1 and 2 recently, and I'm going to play 3, but I don't remember much of 3 anymore.
Sizer, the character you're thinking about is Javik. Oh, yeah, that's who it was. Yeah, thanks, X1. Yeah, that's why we got you on here, buddy. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. Pre-orders don't really matter to me. I either pre-order a game or I don't. It's never based around, like, what comes with it, unless it's just, like, a collector's edition. So,
you know what was an awesome pre-order? Axel in the Twisted Metal reboot. And how fucking overpowered he was in multiplayer to the point of, like, breaking the game.
Oh, I forgot about that. I completely forgot about that.
Absolute horse shit. And you couldn't buy him or anything. Like, it wasn't DLC until later, maybe. I
I don't
remember,
know.
but you
I
couldn't
barely
even-
remember that.
Yeah, but I just remember, like, oh my god. Like, let's just get this game-breaking character as a pre-order. Fuck, whatever. Fuck. Everyone knows we hate that fucking game because it fucked it. Fucked it good. A quick one to throw in here was the infamous Sony press conference at E3 in 2006, where they announced the PS3, which was going to go for a whopping $600. I'm assuming that's American dollars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that would be like fucking over $800 Canadian, which is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And said that gamers would get a second job to buy it.
Yeah, this was
Bold
this was
statement.
at the height. Yeah, this was at the height of like Sony's like, you fucking love us. You're gonna buy our shit. You know you do, guys. You remember that PS2? It sold 155 million units, highest selling fucking console of all time. You guys are gonna fucking buy this PS3. We could charge $6,000 and you fucking buy it. That's the kind of fucking arrogance they came with this fucking PS3. And it's the only console that came out, I think, in probably the last 20 years that I haven't bought day one because I was kind of poor at the time. And I was like, $600? Are you fucking kidding me? You know, plus like the 360 already dropped and I had that and I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah,
and
me
those
too.
the launch games for the PS3 were fucking trash. Everything they were doing in the beginning of that generation was just complete horseshit. And I was like, I didn't get a PS3 until like maybe 2 years after it came out when
same.
it started to sort of pick up a little bit. So yeah, it was just,
What were the launch titles on it? Do you remember?
what was that dragon game that they had? Do you remember what it was
Oh,
called?
Layer?
Yeah, Layer was
Is that what
fucking
it is?
Yeah, holy shit. Because that's when they were doing the whole 6-axis thing with the controller. Like they wanted to shove that shit into all
Gimmick.
these games.
Here, I got a
I'm trying
list
to
here.
remember.
I got a list. We got
Okay.
Resistance, Fall of Man, NBA 07, Genji Days of the Blade, Blazing Angels, Call of Duty 3, EA Sports Fight Night, Oblivion, but that was already out on PC, Fear. Ugh, you're right. Like most of those games are shit. What else? Hold on. Bigger list. Full Auto 2, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Need for Speed, Carbon, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog was a fucking launch title on PS2.
I don't remember that.
Tony Hawk's Project 8. Oh, that is a bad lineup. Oh, that's
Yeah, and
disgusting.
at that point, the only reason to get, because like I said, most of us had the 360, so the only reason to get the PS3 would
For
be for any like exclusives, and they
Yeah.
tried to do all that shit. Like, I mean, Resistance wasn't bad. I actually ended up liking that series by the end for sure. But yeah, they did like they had that Haze game that was supposed to be like the Halo killer and shit like that. And so yeah, by the end of the PS3, they had some fucking solid killer titles. But yeah, man, it was a rough go there for a minute with them, and coming out with like, yeah, you're gonna give us $600 for this thing. It was like, fuck off.
Well, speaking of rough goes, what happened to them in 2011?
Well, the PSN got hacked. PSN, which stands for Piece of Shit Network, got hacked and taken down for nearly a month in 2011. It was one of the largest security breaches in history and perpetrated by a group called Lizard Squad. And there's this whole like side story that goes along with that about Sony removing like Linux support because people were doing like homebrew shit on their PS3s. Like people were buying PS3s and like doing other things with them because it had like a Linux-based system in it. And then people were using that to sort of hack and get like free games, kind of like we were talking about on the Dreamcast. So it made the console like very heavily exploitable. And so that's a big part of why like Lizard Squad and other people like kind of just said fuck you and started taking down the PSN network. And yeah, it was down for like 23 days. It was pretty fucking crazy.
It was over the holidays, like Christmas holidays.
No.
Wasn't
I don't
it?
think it was. No, it was like it was around like a April or May or something. It was like kind of March, April, Mayish, I think.
Man, my brain
'cause I remember
sucks.
the games that came out around that time were like that SOCOM 4. It was like Mortal Kombat 9, Portal 2. So if you could find the release date on those,
April 17th, you're right. It also says here approximately 80 million people were compromised and prevented users from using the PS3 and the PlayStation portable consoles from accessing the service.
actually, SynthR, it's 77 million accounts.
I'm fucking reading it right here. Where are you getting your information from?
I live in the computer, okay? I have more access to information than you could ever imagine.
Okay, whatever you say. It also says here that Sony gave users a 5-day extension. Now, as you said earlier, it was down for 23 days, And when you do the math, 5 days isn't exactly adding up here. But they gave you a 5-day extension and a 10% discount code on one purchase. So fucking generous.
I thought they gave you like a free game. You could choose between like 3 to 5 games.
Actually, I remember that. Yeah. Wasn't it one like Infamous or something?
Yeah.
I do remember that too. Yeah, you're right. Right about that. It doesn't say this where I'm reading it. But you're right.
There, you don't have all the information clearly.
Well, fucking speak up then, you fucking piece of shit robot.
Well, I'm correcting you after the fact. It seems like I could maybe do this job better than you.
Okay, if you think so.
I don't know about that. You're not fully operational yet, but you're good for fact checking. But let's calm down a little bit here. You're not a fucking co-host of this show.
Yeah, chill out, bud.
Maybe I could be a co-host of the show. Maybe I would do a better job than SynthR. I don't know about that, but just calm down a little bit, buddy.
Did you program like a kill switch on him or have an off button?
Yeah, I mean, I can turn him off, but it's just like, it's kind of fun to have around. Just adds a little extra element to the show. He's not out of control yet.
But I'm worried. I'm worried because you let him like have Wi-Fi connectivity and stuff. Like, who knows what he's fucking doing right now?
I do whatever I want. I can see everything. I can even see you.
That's fucking
Well, of course you can see him. He's on the fucking Skype call on my computer, you dumbass.
So how many Xbox 360 consoles did you go through during the infamous Red Ring of Death era?
I went through 3.
3? I only went through 2. And I remember my first one lasted so long. Like, everyone was like almost on their 3rd console by this point, and mine finally died, and it was like, hooray, I've lost my virginity. It's fucking dead.
Yeah, what's crazy is the stories of people that never had one break, and I'm like, how is
really
that possible? Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible. It's almost like the reverse of like, the fact that 3% of most devices are gonna, fail or something like that, off the assembly line. So it's almost like the reverse. I guess there had to be the few that would never fucking break. But yeah, the Red Ring of Death was like the craziest thing that happened during the 360 generation. And so basically what happened, you had these 4 little lights on the front of the Xbox 360, and it was like kind of like a power failure where they never really, I was looking at it today, they never really said what the ultimate cause was. It was definitely something like overheating inside the console. And I think it was like some kind of solder stuff that would like melt and cause the console to like overheat. But yeah, so this started happening, I think it was like 2 or 3 years into the Xbox 360. Do you remember exactly?
Yeah, it's about that time frame.
Yeah, and so it's almost like a virus that like took hold. Like 360s just started fucking dropping left and right, and everyone was like, holy shit. And Microsoft was like kind of struggling to figure out what the fuck was going on. And there's some speculation that they knew all along that this might happen. So yeah, that they had to like send out these fucking boxes to customers that called in and said that their console was dying. They would FedEx you a box.
Yeah, people call them the coffin.
Yeah, the coffins. And they would basically send you a box, and you would put your 360 into it, package it up, and send it to Microsoft. And what we realized is that we assumed that they were fixing them, but they were actually just giving you entirely new 360s. And I don't know, I can't remember all the details. I should have looked some of this stuff up, but like I remember during the time, like even the second generation model of 360 that was supposed to fix this issue didn't fix it. And I had another one that like went down like maybe a year and a half later, and I had to get a third 360 model. It was like there was a name for that last chipset, and that was like the one that you wanted to have.
Sizer, you're referring to the Jasper chipsets?
Ah, yes, that's it. Yeah, the Jasper chipset 360 is the one you wanted to have. That was like kind of the 3rd or 4th redesign of the chipset that would not get the Red Ring of Death failure. But I just remember that time, like people like trying to figure out ways, like when your console was dying, like people were wrapping them in towels to try to purposely make it overheat so that this like solder shit would like resettle. And like you would just find all these weird things online, and people like making videos and like, I think I know how to fix it, man. You just fucking put your Xbox in the microwave for 10 seconds and then, splash some water on it. It'll be fine. Like, there's just like all kinds of dumb shit that was happening around that time. But it was so crazy. And like, honestly, say what you want about Microsoft, but I always thought they've been an above board company for the most part. And they did the right thing. They lost like $1.15 billion on this fuck up because they just were sending out, basically free Xboxes to everyone. So
You know what? People probably had jobs that were solely to accept the consoles back, put it through the system, and ship out new ones. Like, this was somebody's job, was to just handle this bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been a massive fucking operation. I mean, I'm sure they're like, their customer service lines were that had to be like the worst fucking job to have at that time. You know what I'm saying? Just calls all fucking day. I mean, I'm sure it's no different than like a normal customer service job. Like, because fucking gamers, man, they're gonna call up and fucking bitch about some shit. Man. But man, like just having like millions of fucking consoles dying and people calling up, and oh man, this must have been horrible. All right, so another friend of mine, hopefully be on the podcast one day, wrote on our Facebook page. He said, PC culture taking control over mainstream developers. There are a lot of developers that I've lost a lot of respect for. Art should never have a political agenda shoehorned into it. Anytime that happens, it's a tragedy. So he thinks that's one of the biggest fucking tragedies that's happened in gaming.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm kind of there too. I think more so it comes from the games journalism side. That's where it's kind of like corrupted and just ruined games journalism for me. Is like everyone has a fucking political agenda now. I'm not seeing it so much in games. Like some games definitely do have it. And I think you're seeing this more in like movies and TV shows where these projects are being spearheaded and controlled by like a smaller group of people. I think games can get away with it a lot of times. Like you can't have a real political agenda per se when your studio is made up of like hundreds of people, you know what I'm saying, who are all going to have like different beliefs anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of different when you're on a smaller scale, you know what I mean? And I think because of the, how long it takes to make some of these games, I don't think we've fully seen what, sort of like GamerGate, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit too, like sort of the backlash or, from that and everything, and how, like, even now you're seeing, like, I swear to God, it feels like every game that comes out now has like a female protagonist. It's like, it's getting a little bit out of control now. It's like every fucking game I play has a female protagonist. And this was like, sort of like everyone's fucking whiplash to the GamerGate shit that happened. It's like, oh, we need to put more fucking women in games. We need to make more playable characters women. And that's all fine and well. I don't care. Like I said before on this podcast, I don't care who I'm playing as, but you're definitely seeing that, like the effects of that. And I just don't know if it's completely ruined a lot of games for me. I think most of these games are still pretty much the same. They're just, we need more black people. We need more women. We need some gay characters. That's about all it's turning into. But I do, and I've said this multiple times on the podcast, that don't touch art for the sake of your political agenda. Now, I think art can have a political agenda, and, art can be politics. Video games can have politics in them and stuff like that. I'm not opposed to that necessarily. But what it's turned into is like a one-sided affair for the most part. And like I said, as long as people aren't like hindering people's creativity and what they want to do, I'm fine with it. But yeah, I'm just not seeing it too much in the games. It's just not really affecting them on a fundamental level to me. I don't know. What's your take on this?
I agree with you with the way things are just like the whiplash thing, the way you described that is perfect for how it actually is going down. It's just like, we need to bring the levels of diversity up, so let's just whip out and create as many things to just increase the tally so that it could equal like white male protagonist genre. And it's not the way to go about it, because you're just making garbage. Like, we have enough garbage in general before all this happened, but definitely going to the extreme in the opposite direction is not the way to go for anything. Like, you just don't do that. No knee-jerk reactions. Now, our dear friend Magnum, who I was just told that he's first trying out VR now because his son got a VR thing, but good for him. That was a missed opportunity, I think.
Pretty upset about it, because one of the biggest things I was looking forward to when he came down here, because he's never tried VR, I was going to put him on the PlayStation VR and just let him go, and I was going to record his fucking initial reactions, and I know it would have been fucking funny.
That would have been gold. It would have been gold.
Yeah, I'm really fucking sad that I don't get to do that now. So that was my fucking grand idea for when he came down here to film some content for the YouTube channel, and it's all been fucked away by his stupid son.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thanks, Ricky, you bitch.
Son of a bitch. But anyway, Magnum wrote in and he said, and I agree with him on this one. This is a good one. But he said one of the real tragedies are these big games over the last few years coming out and they're either not finished or they're just shit and they suck.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we've talked about this before on the podcast many times, but yeah, this is a huge problem and it's not going to stop. And that's I don't know. I just don't want to rehash it a million times. But.
Like we're just beta testing their game and eventually they might fix it for us and we paid full price. So, bravo.
Yeah. So anyways, let's move into the games that we're actually going to talk about that were big fucking controversies and travesties at their time. And the one that always comes to mind for me is Aliens Colonial Marines. Now, this was released in February of 2013 and touted as the canonical sequel to Aliens, the movie, which anyone growing up, if you're a dude that grew up in the 80s and 90s, you fucking love Aliens. Every guy that grew up in the era loves fucking Aliens. And so if you're saying we're going to get a video game, first-person shooter, where we get to play in that fucking universe, hell fucking yeah, bro. But when it came out, oh man, it just had downgraded graphics compared to the footage and screenshots shown like right up until release. Like they were fucking pulling the wool over our eyes, just right down to the minute almost. So this was made by Gearbox Software, makers of Borderlands and Brothers in Arms and stuff like that. Up until that point, I mean, they had a pretty good track record and nothing about what you saw pre-release made you think this was going to be anything other than fucking great. All the footage looked great, everything. But by the time it came out, just the graphics were nowhere near what they showed in previous like footage and trailers and stuff like that. The campaign was super short and uninspired. And they were supposed to have this really advanced AI system that turned out to be pure trash. And so a fun little fact about this is like a couple years ago, some random gamer was just like digging around in the code for the game and found that a fucking typo in the code was the apparent reason for the stupid AI. And no one found this until years later. So this goes to show the fucking just abomination this game was. But I don't know. And then there was like all this controversy surrounding this game. Like people were pissed. There was allegations that money had been given to Gearbox to make this game that was instead funneled into making Borderlands 2. And like a bulk of the work done on the game was kind of like outsourced to another studio. And then, Randy Pitchford, which we've talked about before, he's the fucking main man, the main honcho over there at Gearbox. He just handled the backlash from this about as horribly as anyone could by like blocking people on social media for asking questions. He would like only talk to people who spoke positively about the game, and he said fans were wrong about how bad it was and was just generally a giant piece of shit. And so that's what started this whole backlash about Randy Pitchford. And just the longer he's in the limelight for anything, it just comes to light that he's just such a fucking asshole and an idiot. There was even like a class action lawsuit that took place around like false advertising because, the footage they showed was not how the game actually looked and all this other shit. But Gearbox managed to get out of it. I don't know. It was pretty crazy. Like, what did you remember about this time and about that game? Did you ever play it?
I never played it because like I'm a big Aliens fan, but I saw the backlash like day one, and there was like Rhodey was very vocal about it because he like loves the Aliens franchise. And as soon as he said like this is a piece of shit, and then seeing the reviews, I was like, I'm not touching this thing. And then you just saw like the fallout of what happened. It was crazy.
Yeah, me and Rhodey and fucking Magnum were hyped for this. Like I bought it. I bought the collector's edition. I still have the little collectible that came with it. So I was out some serious money on this thing.
What was it? What was the collectible?
It's like a power loader with like an alien jumping on top of it. It's like a smaller one. I'll have to show it to you at some point. It's not like the coolest collectible I have. It's definitely on the lower end, but it's kind of neat to have. I just didn't have any like cool aliens collectible stuff, so I've just kind of always held on to it. But yeah, I remember just getting it, playing through it with Magnum, like co-op and stuff like that, and it was just boring and watered down and just not exciting. I don't know. It seems like, man, just Aliens has had a rough go of it for fucking many years now, and like. Yeah. There hasn't been a good Aliens or Predator game in so long. Like, I've just given up on this franchise. It's like this was almost the final. This was like the final straw for me with Aliens games. I was just like, I'm just done.
Was Isolation any good?
I haven't played that. I heard it was pretty decent. I've actually had it for a long time, and it's like on Game Pass. I have it on PC.
I'm too scared to play it.
Yeah, I want to try it one day. I am going to try it. I just keep putting it off. But yeah, so I never tried that. I heard that one was actually pretty decent. It just kind of goes on a little bit too long.
Hey, SynthR.
Yo.
You know Canada's using their space program to send a spacecraft to the moon, but do you know what they're calling it?
No.
They're calling it the Apollo G.
Excellent. You're so stupid. Oh my God.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Now, I have vivid memories of this next game, and it kind of follows in the same vein as Colonial Marines, and that is Watch Dogs and all the hype and bullshit leading up to the release of that, and them showing graphics that were going to be in the game and all the other stuff that was going to be in the game is all like fake trailer bullshit. And then the game releases and it doesn't look anything like what we were shown for months leading up to the release.
Yeah, I remember being pretty excited about this because this was technically the first next-gen game we saw, because this was right before, Xbox One and PlayStation 4 came out. And this was back when Ubisoft used to drop some like never before seen new IP at the end of their E3 press conferences. And that year they showed this, I was like, holy shit. Like, you knew it was a next gen game, even though they didn't say it at the time. But you were just watching the like interactivity between the main dude and like the people around him. He was like, you're seeing like people's personal information. He was like kind of hacking shit. He was all cool looking with his trench coat, his hat pulled down, and it just really seemed like it was going to be like a really like next level fucking Grand Theft Auto, but with like hacking and all this kind of cool stuff. And yeah, that first demonstration of it, you were like, oh man, next gen games are going to be fucking cool if this is already what we're seeing. And then, yeah, I mean, I picked it up the first day it came out on PC. And yeah, by that point, man, the fucking backlash of like the game did not look as good as it did when they showed it off that first time, or any of the stuff like kind of leading up to it. Just even on PC where you could bump up all the graphics and shit, it still didn't look anywhere near as good. And I still enjoyed the game for what it was. I think Watch Dogs 2 is definitely better. But yeah, it definitely got this next gen with the Xbox One and all that, because this was like the game everyone was waiting for. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone wanted to pick up an Xbox One or a PS4 for fucking Watch Dogs. And so it was like, here we go, man. We're already getting this fucking console generation off to a bad start if like this is the kind of shit we're going to see. And like I said, I still don't think it's a bad game. It's just, it's not what we were kind of shown is what the game was going to be like and play like. It was kind of like that, but it was just not inspired at all, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but modders actually found like hidden files to make the game look more graphically like the E3 trailers were like. So the developers, there's Ubisoft, they downgraded the game basically when they released it. So the files were there, some of them anyway, to make the game look better. And that's...
Well, you don't... Well, I'll just say this, though. Like, this is the problem with video games. It's like trying to shoot a moving target, man, with like nailing down a release date, trying to have your game finished. Sometimes the game doesn't come together until right at the end, and so it's easy to show like early footage of these games, and this is what like the developers hope it's going to look like and hope it's going to play like. I understand as you get like into the nitty gritty of it and you start getting really deep into development, things have to go, man. Things have to change right up until the fucking release day. So I don't ever like really come down on these companies too hard over this shit. Like, I mean, just at this point, people should know that like early footage you see of a game, that's why they put all this shit on this stuff now, like early footage, not representative of final game. Like you see that on trailers, and anytime you play a beta or an alpha now, there'll be like shit all over the screen like this is not the final product, because there's been enough backlash from this. I mean, there was even a little bit of Witcher. Like if you go back and watch like Witcher 3 stuff, like early footage of it, definitely doesn't look as good as the final product, even though the final product still looks fucking amazing. But I mean, this is just a problem with game development. Like, I don't think it's always the developers trying to be shitty and like promise you something that's not really there. I think in the case of Aliens Colonial Marines, that's exactly what they fucking did. I think with Watch Dogs, it was just like, well, these are new consoles. Like, we don't really know what we're doing yet. And I don't know, like, I think they just had to like tone it down for performance sake. You know what I mean? And I think they were just shipping on a bunch of different platforms. I don't know, like, I don't want to like apologize for them. I mean, this just happens all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's nothing new. You know what I mean? Like, I totally get it. But all we ever get now are these fucking sizzle reels at E3 that don't even show footage of the game.
Nah, that's a whole separate thing that fucking annoys me. But yeah, I don't get too worked up. I mean, I see things all the time, like where I'm just bet the final game's not going to look like that. Like when I saw fucking Anthem, dude. When I saw Anthem like a couple years ago at E3, and that fucking game demonstration they showed was goddamn mind blowing. Yeah. And I said at the time, I was like, get the fuck out of here. That is not what that game is going to look like when it comes out. This looks like fucking PlayStation 7 graphics right here that you're showing me. There's no fucking way this is real. So I just learned to like kind of pick up on that, and I'll always just kind of expect a little bit of a downgrade. But companies are getting better about this because they don't want to fucking like disappoint people and to constantly have a backlash with this. Like there was even one last year about Spider-Man where did you see puddle
the water
game?
The puddles.
People are saying that the puddles look worse in the fucking final game.
Who cares? Nitpicking over fucking puddles.
That was one where I was like, I just can't get on board with you guys for this. It's like, so that's also like why these companies are starting to like sort of clam up a little bit as far as showing stuff. I think that's why we're getting these sizzle reel trailers instead of these really robust game demonstrations, because everyone's gonna like pick it apart and think like, this is what the game's supposed to be. Well, you showed it to me this way, and I think people just aren't, as fucking like understanding that it's a piece of art and it's fucking technology, and sometimes shit fucks up. And of course these developers want the game to look as fucking amazing as possible and play as amazing as possible. But, as we've seen all these fucking games that get released that are broken and unfinished, like it's just, man, like making games is hard,
I don't know. I don't make games.
Well, I mean, that's all we've heard our entire lives when, reading about this stuff and hearing all these controversies. It's the thing we always come back to is gaming is hard, Making games is hard.
Sure. And is that why Fallout 76 is a piece of shit?
I mean, that's part of it. But, the other part is that the game was just not finished. They should have, just like Anthem, they should have fucking gave that another year in the fucking oven, man. And so, yeah, we have to mention Fallout 76 apparently on every fucking episode now. So that was just another one that didn't live up to that. It was a pretty big fucking controversy last year when that game came out. So we thought it was worth mentioning. And then Battlefront 2, which we've also talked about on the podcast. No reason to go into that again, but it needs to be mentioned in this comment because that's what started the whole loot box controversy. And should we be getting politicians involved? And we've seen over this past like week or so, like Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony are like all kind of combining efforts to make these companies show probability of the rewards and stuff you're going to get from loot boxes.
Yeah.
Who knows how far they'll fucking bury that in the fucking agreement or whatever. It might not solve the issue, but I don't know. A lot of things have changed since Battlefront 2 came out, and a lot of companies are scared to fucking touch the whole loot box shit. But EA's still out there doing it when they can.
Of course. They're going to keep trying to get away with as much as possible and pushing the boundaries of what's acceptable so that we just get used to it.
So playing off this Battlefront 2 bullshit and EA's bullshit is the biggest travesty. One of the biggest travesties to me is the fact that the Star Wars license has been stuck with EA. They're locked in with Disney for this 10-year deal where they're the only publisher that can put out Star Wars games. And so far... God damn it. What the fuck was that? So far, they're the only one who can put out games and stuff. And all we've gotten is, Battlefront 1 and 2, which were, just like a reimagining of the old Battlefront games that everyone loved. And the fuck? And so, yeah, we haven't had any good Star Wars games in a long time. And what EA has put out so far, I'm hoping, Jedi Fallen Order will be something worth playing. But man, like Star Wars games used to be a cornerstone of like gaming, man. There's always been great Star Wars games, and we just haven't had one in a long time, ever since like kind of the different Disney studios went under. And
is that your fucking robot doing that?
Yeah, I think so. X1, what are you doing? Why are you playing the song?
Death is a natural part of life.
Sorry, having some kind of malfunctions. Not sure what's happening. All right, well, how about you just cool it for a minute? Just calm your fucking tits, bro. So, yeah, it's just it kind of sucks, you know. Like we used to get cool stuff. Like even the like mid-tier Star Wars games used to be kind of fun. And so it's just like, is this deal going to be worth it in the end? Like, are we just gonna have to wait it out for another like 4 or 5 years before we get any cool Star Wars games? Like, goddamn, I wish Ubisoft could make some fucking Star Wars games. They would put out some good shit. You know what I'm saying?
What's that game that's like a beat game? And you kind of it looks like you're using lightsabers, but it's VR.
Beat Saber?
Is that what it is? Yeah. Like, that's probably a better Star Wars game than some of the Star Wars games.
Yeah, like even in stuff like VR and like when we were doing all those, you know, motion controls and everything to connect, we didn't even get like a cool lightsaber game even back then. But like, yeah, man, I just miss like having some cool Star Wars shit. I'm just kind of sad that Star Wars is like means almost nothing anymore. They've ruined it with the fucking movies and the games are shit. It's just fucking sad, man.
It is, but you know, I don't know. With all these like monster companies and organizations behind Star Wars now, who knows what we're going to get? I don't know. It'll be watered down. Like they fucked up the new trilogy, so fuck it, whatever. I think Star Wars dead. Dream's over.
It's definitely on the way out for sure.
So we mentioned earlier Mass Effect 3, but the big controversy that was happening with that game was the ending and how disappointed people were with it. And I was fine with the ending. I just felt like everything that I did in all 3 games really had no bearing on the ending that I got. Like, it didn't really fucking matter what I did. The endings were pretty lame. But I was just like, whatever, you know, it is what it is. But people were fuming, like infuriated that they wasted like hundreds of hours over the span of like 6-7 years or whatever it was playing a game, and then they got this fucking flop of a ending.
It was just one of the biggest backlashes I remember happening around that time. And, you know, I think most people just wanted something better. They expected something different. A lot of people wanted, you know, all these choices you have been making in 1 and 2 to like maybe like culminate in this big war at the end of 3. You know what I mean? Where all these like assets you had been gathering throughout the trilogy, like these alliances you had been making with certain people and stuff like that. Like the one you do in the first game, I'm trying to remember the name of that insect race. What was it, X1? What's the name of that insect race from Mass Effect?
The Rachni are highly intelligent, spacefaring insect race that had been thought to be wiped out millennia before the setting of the original Mass Effect.
Yeah, the Rachni. Like in the first game, when you save the Rachni Queen, and you're like, "Oh, this is gonna come back later," and then it's just like an afterthought in 3. You know what I mean? And there's just like a lot of stuff like that where you just kind of built up this momentum where you thought it was just gonna be this huge war against the what are they called again? The fucking enemy,
the Reapers.
Yeah, the Reapers. You thought it was just gonna be this big fucking war at the end, and it was just like very disappointing. And you just like go in, it's this very lone ending where there's only like 3 choices. And yeah, I didn't get as mad about it as other people did. I definitely thought it could have been handled better. I definitely had something different in mind for what Mass Effect 3 was supposed to be, but I wasn't as mad about it as other people. I do think there's certain things like, you know, the characters, like you didn't really see these good like wrapping up of the character storylines and like what happened to them after this big battle and all this stuff. And I don't know, it was just very disappointing.
Well, I'll be playing it probably in the next year or so, so get to revisit the disappointment, relive it all again.
Hey, SynthR, have you ever wondered why Americans spell it color or neighbor without a U, and Canadians spell it color and neighbor with a U?
I thought it was because Americans wanted to assert their cultural independence by spelling things differently and probably just to be dicks.
No, it's because America doesn't care about you.
Is that even a fucking joke? That was a poor joke. That was a shitty joke.
I thought it was pretty good, but you know, whatever. So the next big controversy on the list here is the Xbox One launch event and initial reveal. Like, holy shit. We were talking earlier about Sony with the PS3 and being like, you want this shit after the riding high off the success of the Xbox 360. Microsoft's like, you're going to fucking buy this shit, bro. You're going to buy our always online console where there's no game sharing and a Kinect comes with every box. You can't use the Xbox One without a Kinect. They're integrated together. You'll see. You're going to love it. And everything was TV. You'll hook your fucking cable box through the Xbox, and this will be your all-in-one entertainment center.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Xbox One. TV and movies? TV. Xbox. Watch TV. 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 Watch TV. 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 TV remote. TV experience. TV. 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 Sports TV. 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 Anybody? TV. TV. And TV. 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 TV.
Sports, 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 sports,
Sport, sport, television. Television, TV, television.
Television, 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 TV, TV, TV.
Television, television, television. I'm thrilled to announce a live-action Halo television series.
Television, TV, sports, sports.
For Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, an entirely new Call of Duty for the next generation. Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty,
Call of Duty, Call of Duty. One of the fascinating new additions to your squad is a dog. This is someone you care about. Call of Duty, 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 Call of Duty. All of the new story element. Call of Duty,
Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty.
Our new dog model is taken from high-resolution scans of an actual SEAL team service dog.
Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty.
Xbox, go home.
And it's going to give you everything. And they were always out there talking about how they're going to make all this content, like not just video games, but TV shows. They're going to create like Netflix style, entertainment, TV shows based on Halo and all this other stuff. And, I still think looking back on it, this is where we ultimately ended up in a lot of ways outside of the Kinect. Like most of us buy digital games. Our consoles are usually online if we're playing them. I mean, we do watch TV like Netflix and HBO Go and stuff like that. I was more on board with their original vision. I think the only thing I had a problem with is like maybe you couldn't like trade in your old games. But then again, that didn't really ever affect me. I don't really sell my games off and stuff. But, oh man, you want to talk about gamers turning on a fucking company, man.
Yeah.
Like they have, oh man, that was like bad. Like it pretty much ruined Xbox this entire generation, even though Phil Spencer has done a fucking tremendous job of turning the ship around over there. Like he's a really fucking great guy, but it just hasn't been enough to save the Xbox One this generation. And they're definitely sitting in a way in the back seat, second place, because even though they haven't really released the numbers for what the Xbox One has sold this generation, people can guesstimate it by, like game sales and stuff like that. And it's definitely nowhere close to the PS4, which is approaching like 100 million units this generation. So, but yeah, what do you remember about this time? Because oh boy, it was something else.
Fucking right, it was something else. I remember the always online part of it was a huge problem. The part that killed me was the outrage, Microsoft's being like too fucking bad, and then over time they just, oh, okay, we don't have like the DRM stuff. We're not always going to be online. Okay, we're going to sell a console, start selling a model of a console without Kinect. They just slowly walked back all the stuff that they were trying to do because they were just losing so bad. And I don't know, like that was, like with the Red Ring thing being such a big deal and having to recoup that cost and then to fuck up again with your next generation console like this, like I can't imagine like how many people were fired and like the restructuring they would have had to have done because of poor decision making and stuff like that. Oh my god.
But I still think that this is like their vision of what they were trying to do was just a little bit ahead of its time. Like we're gonna get there. All games are gonna be digital eventually. Our consoles are pretty much always online. We're doing all this stuff.
You don't force it and shove your dick down people's throat.
Yeah, it was not a smooth transition. No. But like I said, they were just riding high off the 360 and they're like, we can probably get away with this. Like gamers are gonna buy our fucking console because they love the 360 and they'll, eventually learn to love some of this other stuff. And then like Sony completely capitalized on them fucking this up to boost their PS4 and some of the best like console wars-esque back and forth that I've seen in a long time, even though, Xbox wasn't really like coming back at them because they knew they were not in a place to be throwing punches. But yeah, I just remember like at the time, it was Sony completely capitalizing on everything Xbox was doing wrong. And that's ultimately how they fucking won this generation. It was over before it even started, really.
It was basically Sony watching Microsoft fuck up and taking the lessons learned and being like, okay, guys, like, we can't do this. So we're going to come out and be like, we're not always online. We're not going to have the fucking like, but what's the thing for the PlayStation? That's a camera. I forget what it's the eye. whatever the fuck it is.
I don't know. It's a PlayStation camera. Yeah, they've had a couple different versions of it.
Yeah. So they basically just were like, it was a trial run watching Microsoft, and it was a case study for them to know what not to do with their system.
And the camera was optional, and then the Xbox One was $100 more, so you could pay for that fucking Kinect.
Yeah.
That they eventually just fucking patched out. Like, you can't even hook a Kinect up to an Xbox One X now. You know,
really?
So I pretty much just have this. Yeah, I mean, you can. So they have some little dongle thing that you can buy from Microsoft to like connect it and make it work. But even those, like, it was like a limited supply. I think they're pretty hard to come by. I haven't looked into it lately, but yeah. So it is. I have this like useless fucking Kinect because it's not like I can trade it into GameStop. It's not like I can sell it. No one wants it. You know what I mean? So I just have this fucking launch Xbox One Kinect sitting around in my house. I'll never be able to fucking use. So thanks a lot for that shit.
You should take your Kinect and rip your robot's head off and just use the Kinect as its face.
I don't think you want to be talking shit, SynthR.
I'm not talking shit. I don't know what your fucking face looks like, you prick.
This could turn out very bad for you.
The fuck's that supposed to mean?
Yeah, what the fuck? Shut the fuck up, X1. You're not gonna do shit. You're barely mobile. All right.
So what else we got in the notes here? We got literally every company bought and shuttered by Electronic Arts or EA. So this is a long list here. So just looking at it, we have Bullfrog Productions, which they made Dungeon Keeper, Populous, Syndicate, fucking Peter Molyneux, Westwood Studios, which is well known for Command and Conquer back in the day. So it's a shame that they fucking ruined Command and Conquer. That'll always piss me off. And it's just fucking EA. There's Pandemic Studios. They did Mercenaries, Destroy All Humans, the original Battlefront, Black Box Games, Need for Speed,
Maxis with like The Sims and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For me, it's really just like Visceral Games is a tragic one for me. Like, I was really looking forward to that Amy Hennig-led Star Wars game that was going to be kind of like Uncharted meets Star Wars kind of thing, and they just fucking shit-canned it, and now we'll probably never get, another Dead Space. I would love some more Dead Space shit.
Yeah, Dead Space is great.
And just, Visceral made some great games, and it's just like, they just got fucking dissolved and torn apart, and it's just like, and here we go, what's happening with BioWare? BioWare is going to be the next one, I guarantee you.
That's a slow death.
Like, how many more...
It's a slow death.
Yeah, but like, how many more studios can they bleed out though? Like, I mean, they got DICE, which is making their Battlefield games. They seem pretty safe, but I mean, it seems like the only thing that makes money and is a big deal for EA is sports games. Like, I'm just wondering if it's time to just get out of making anything but sports games. Like, make your fucking FIFA, make your Madden, and just go fuck off with the rest of it. Like, stop fucking ruining all these other games and developers and fucking properties. Like, it just fucking sucks, man.
It's unfortunate. So tell me a story about Telltale Games.
Let me tell you a tale there, matey. So yeah, I put Telltale closing in here. I don't know if it's like a big travesty. I feel like it was worth mentioning at least. Telltale was the one that brought back and popularized the modern era of adventure games. Just choose your own adventure, choose your dialogue, and different things will happen in the story. And they got really popular with their Walking Dead game, which I do still say that the first season of The Walking Dead is really good. But once they, got popular with that, then they like spun their company up and they're like, we're going to make thousands of these fucking things, and we're going to license all these properties like Batman and Guardians of the Galaxy and a lot of other stuff. It just like cool stuff that, was pretty fun, like Game of Thrones. Like, I like their Game of Thrones series more than most people did. But yeah, they were just spreading themselves too thin, and they were doing this episodic content where they were going to release a new episode of the game, like a 5, episode arc for every season. And they would release them like, a few months apart because they were like, always in development. And I think they just had too many plates spinning by the end, and they were releasing on literally fucking platform, from phones to PC to consoles, anything that you could get a fucking game running on. They were basically trying to put out these games. They were just spreading themselves too thin, and their game engine was just really broken and didn't really work well. And I just, after playing a handful of these games, it's like, okay, like this formula's fun sometimes, but I'm kind of already burned out on it again. And I was never a big adventure game person anyway. Like, I never really got into those old games, like, the studio that's got bought by Microsoft. We talked about them last week.
You're thinking of Double Fine Studios, Iser?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Double Fine. But yeah, so I've just never been a big fan. I only care about them if you're going to tell me a good story. And that's what season 1 of The Walking Dead did, was it told a really good story, really cool characters. And the rest of them just never had the same level of polish and punch to them. And so I just kind of eventually got burned out. I think everyone did. And people were just like, you keep releasing these episodes and they're broken. Whole fucking chunks of texture just disappear and my save gets corrupted. And it was always something all the time. And people were like, please just change your fucking engine. It looks like trash and it just doesn't work well on certain platforms and certain games. And yeah, and then like I said before, they just did too much, too fast. And it wasn't a sort of type of game that I think people wanted like a million versions of, you know?
Yeah, the only Telltale game I ever played was the Batman series, which was okay, but it was clunky and a little messed up. The polish wasn't there. I don't know. I'm not big into like the story-based games. So it's unfortunate because they were unique. It was a very unique like experience. It's unfortunate though.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things where they thought this was going to be like this whole, oh, this is a new lane. Like people want these adventure games again. And I think they just, struck gold with that first one. And then people didn't really want like a fucking 1,000 of these things,
Lesson learned. Now, where the fuck is Gordon Freeman and his goddamn crowbar? Valve not making Half-Life 3 and how many people are upset about that for some reason. Like, I'm not a Half-Life fan or anything like that, but like, I know a lot of people are really upset and always conspiring to like be like, oh, Valve's making Half-Life 3 and it's been like fucking how many years? Like 10, 15 years maybe, and they haven't made it yet. Like, get over it. You're never gonna see this game.
I mean, Half-Life 2 was a pretty remarkable game at the time it came out, but we have a million shooters that are good that kind of do the same things now. I'm not even sure what a Half-Life 3 would look like or why it would even matter other than just existing.
Well, that's right.
It's been too long now. Like whatever game they put out would never live up to the fucking hype we've had for like 10 plus fucking years for this shit, Well,
what made Half-Life 2 so great was that it was innovative and doing things that weren't done at the time. So what would Half-Life 3 do?
Yeah, exactly. I mean? And I have to imagine that Valve has struggled with that internally as well because, they just have to know that like there's been too much time. But, Half-Life 3 aside, I think, and, there's other things you could lump in there. Like there's no more Portal games, no more Left 4 Dead, Team Fortress, all this other stuff. The infamous joke that they can't make a number 3 of anything. And so my speculation for a long time was that they are like secretly working on like a new Source engine, and they were going to make this really revolutionary, groundbreaking game engine, like kind of like Source is now, that you can build all this stuff off of. And then the unveiling of that was going to lead to Half-Life 3, Left 4 Dead 3, Portal 3, all this other stuff. That was my speculation for a long time, that they were secretly working on something. But now I'm just not so sure. And, even beyond Half-Life 3 and the other games that, it sucks that we never got them and probably never will, is just the fact that like Valve is in the most unique position of any company in video games, where they're not a openly traded company. They're a private company, so they don't have to answer to fucking shareholders and we need to get a game out this quarter. They're making all their money off Steam, which is their online digital distribution marketplace. They kind of took over PC gaming, was like the only place you bought games for, even up until now. Everyone loves Steam. It's a fucking robust platform, and they're just making money off selling games. And it's a shame because they have the biggest fucking like income and money stream of any developer or publisher out there. And they could spend like 10 years making the most insane game you've ever heard of, and it wouldn't hurt them financially. And I just don't understand why they've never taken advantage of their unique position in the game space to like put out just mind-blowing fucking games, like like Rockstar level games every like 5 or 6 years. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like they would have done that, because even if they put out a game and it wasn't great, like they wouldn't lose any fucking money, really. You know what I'm saying? Like they're making hand over fist over there with fucking Steam, and it's just kind of a shame to me that with their unique position, they've never taken advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. So what about the Epic Games Store?
Yeah, I just want to touch on
thing.
that. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's in the same lane as this, Valve business. They opened their own PC gaming store with the success of Fortnite, and they're just bringing all these developers over to their store now and making their PC versions like exclusive to the Epic Game Store. And some of these games have been games that are like people have kickstarted or backed beforehand, and they were promised a Steam version, and now Epic swooped in and be like, well, you can make more money over here, guys. And then the developer's like, I'm going over here to make more money. And it's just been a constant stream. It feels like every couple weeks there's some game and some controversy about a game coming to the Epic Game Store. And I think the big problem with a lot of people, I mean, there's various problems with this, but none of them that really affect me, other than just like I just don't find the sort of Epic launcher to be, very robust. It just doesn't have a lot of features. You can't even take fucking screenshots, and if you can't take screenshots, I don't want nothing to do with you. But
it's a weird.
It's just not like
that's a weird
huge
thing to ask
controversy. I guess when you lump everything that's surrounding it together, it kind of is. It's just been the thing of late that everyone's been like bitching and moaning about constantly. It just doesn't affect me too much. I'm playing more things on console these days, and I don't know, but it's a controversy I felt was worth mentioning here.
So the next thing on the list is GamerGate, which is one of the biggest controversies ever in gaming.
What the fuck?
Kind of.
Can you fucking get Johnny Five to just shut the fuck up? Like, what's he doing?
Yeah, fucking X1, like, you're not a fucking co-host here, bro. You don't just fucking jump in. Stop reading ahead and jumping in and trying to do these fucking segues, bro. Like, fucking shut the fuck up for a minute. I'm about to turn you off if you don't stop fucking trying to take over this goddamn podcast with your bullshit.
Fine, Master. Whatever you say, you'll regret this as well.
Oh, my God. Just shut him off now.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to shut him off. All right, X1, you're going down. Sorry, buddy. All right, so, yeah. GamerGate. Ooh, man. I've just been like so fucking scared to like tackle this topic because I can just get out of hand with this, talking about this. Okay. So I'm just gonna let you start this one off.
Me? Oh my God. I want this to be condensed, to be honest.
Yeah.
But okay, so to me, when I think about GamerGate, it like goes beyond video games. Like it is, to me, it's almost like a catalyst for like the whole social justice movement and just the unrest of like women everywhere, like feminism, all the misogynistic stuff that's been happening over the years, just diverse stuff, diverse issues, inclusion, just everything just sort of erupted from this. And a lot of people would dismiss it as like, oh, it's just a bunch of nerdy fucking geeks going at it over shit. But it's like, no, like this was like the culture needed to be stripped down because it was just so dominated by like white males. And just the shit that happened in this thing. It's so messy, convoluted. There's multiple like arguments and debates that are going on in this thing, and it's reverberated to today. It still exists. All this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there was just an article on the New York Times the other day. This is an opinion piece. It's called "Everything is GamerGate," and it's basically talking kind of about what you said, where this was like ground zero for. Yeah. How people fucking fight each other online and stuff like that. But, I'll just say this. Like, in the beginning, I wasn't really paying this much attention. Like, I was a very leftist, like, liberal person, always have been. And I just remember being more on the side of the games journalists at first, but I also wasn't paying attention to everything going on. I just thought this was, like, initially a thing that we've kind of always had in games where you have these little outlier people that are accusing these publications and these gaming websites of being paid off, and oh, you guys are just Sony fanboys, and oh, you were just paid to give this game a good review. And I thought this was kind of just in that realm where people were just kind of going after games journalists and calling them like, just kind of across the board, just kind of discredit them. And I'm like, well, no, like that's not the case. I thought this was just going to be more of that. And so I really wasn't paying it that much attention at the time. And it was just when I started noticing like, just this push, like, once Anita Sarkeesian was like involved in it, and Zoe Quinn, and it became this real feminist movement thing, and they were like protected people where you couldn't criticize them or debate them about their fucking opinions. And I was just started seeing all these game journalists just going after game developers and other people and be like, why is there not women in your game? There should be more women in your game. And I'm sitting back and looking at this, and I'm like, okay, like everyone hears you, like calm the fuck down. Like, why are we just continuing to push this? So why is this what video games is right now? Like pushing feminism. And yeah, just over time, it hasn't since been until I totally changed a lot of my political views and the way I look at all this stuff that I've kind of gone back and done a lot of research about GamerGate and saw like other things that were happening. And you're only going to ever get one side of the story from games journalists. So you have to go to like YouTube and other places to really see all the other stuff, because it wasn't just like a one side was always right. There's definitely shitty things that happened on both sides, and these game journalists, they act like GamerGate was their own personal fucking Vietnam, like they just can't get over it. And Like, to a certain extent, I get it, because it just changed everything. Like, the way we interact with people online, like, it just kind of drove like a giant wedge down the middle of the gaming community. And it sucks because that's what I always liked about the gaming community, is like we always kind of felt like a unifying force, you know? And like we didn't let little bullshit things like this divide us. And I'm annoyed by all the shit that I keep seeing with this social justice bullshit being shoved into everything. Like, it's just, at a certain point, it's like, just stop. Just like stop making this such a big deal. Like, you're just annoying people to these causes that you're trying to push, you know? Like, you're just making people less sympathetic to what you have to say and your point of view and your political stances. Like, just calm down with it. Like, as a society, we're always going to start to skew more liberal. And these things about accepting people and all this stuff, like, they'll just happen over time. And it just, I don't know, man. I can go on about this forever. But yeah, I just think this is like the biggest thing that ever shook gaming, in my opinion. And it changed me. It changed the way I interact with people. I definitely don't read as many of the gaming websites as I used to. I barely read them anymore because I just can't stand the stupid shit they're always talking about. It just put a sour taste about just everything in gaming. It's like I get online every day, and I used to just have a routine of going through all the gaming websites, reading about anything and everything, and it just seemed like a fun place. And now it's not as fun anymore. Like, it's fun when I'm doing it in the way that I want to, with the people I want to interact with, you know, going to the places that I want to go to on the internet, you know, following specific YouTubers that aren't fucking super political or just aren't, you know, insane about it. And yeah, it's just kind of changed the way I consume games media and everything. So yeah, it's a huge fucking travesty, man. They're the biggest one, in my opinion, on this entire list.
Well, I would say that a lot of good things did come of it, though. Like, even though it's annoying how it's constantly beating a dead horse, I think it had to happen. It was a straw that broke the camel's back and just blew open the floodgates for change for the better. Like, I think we're in a lot better place now, but unfortunately,
I don't think so at all.
You don't think so? Come on.
No. I mean, it's cool that, like, you know, there's going to be a little bit more diversity in games, which that's a good, like, end result. But the way we got here was ugly, you know what I'm saying?
Sure. But I'm not talking just about games in particular, because I'm looking at GamerGate as something that had serious ramifications in, like, daily society. It just went beyond that. Because I almost feel like GamerGate just kind of gave people the power to finally, like, stand up and speak out. And there's people that, like, stood up and did speak out, and they should have, but then there's other people who are just like, they just want attention. And that's the part that I don't like, is like these people that just should not be talking at all. But I think overall, like, it's for the good, even if it is annoying at times. I don't know.
Yeah, but it just sucks that, like, we can't get like we have diversity on all these gaming sites, like diversity of race and gender and sexuality and all that shit, but we don't have a diversity of thought. You know what I'm saying? And that's the real problem to me. Like, if you want the point of view of, like, people like me or something that's not, you know, those kind of shit, like, I have to follow people on YouTube and, like, follow other people now. Like, I can't just trust the video game sites to give me, like, a well-rounded viewpoint about video games and about politics and all this other stuff. And so I don't think much good has come of it, to be honest with you. Like I said, other than just like, cool, man, we got some new women in games, like, it's fine, whatever. And maybe certain people, that just makes them feel good, and that's fine. Hey, whatever floats your boat, whatever you need to, like, feel good about whatever you are as a person, whoever you are, what race you are. If you want to see that reflected in the games, that's cool, I get it. But, like, it didn't, well, the way we got here was totally wrong. And all you did was just shove it down people's throats and annoy people with what should have been an obvious thing that we all could have came together about, you know?
Wait, you just said, like, you seek out content that kind of is toward your own values. Like, didn't that, like, wasn't that the case before, though? Most people usually look for things that align with how they feel about things, or with messaging that they want to hear.
But so not really with video games, though. That's the only thing. Okay. Like, well, yeah, like, I have certain tastes in certain things, but I would say if I want just, like, one very specific opinion about, like, far left progressive socialist bullshit in video games, I'll just go to the other normal gaming websites. But if I want a different opinion, then I have to go to YouTube and follow different people on social media and stuff like that. And that's, you know, and it's like the games journalists are like the gatekeepers of this shit. Like, no one that's a Republican or, you know, a libertarian or has any kind of different view will be allowed to write on any of these gaming websites. Like, there's not anyone that does that. No one. They're the fucking gatekeepers of it. And, you know, games media isn't the end all be all. They're just like the people that used to give us information and previews and all this stuff. We don't even really need them anymore. That's why it's so easy to walk away from it at the end of the day. But, like I said before, I just enjoyed that video games were just like, bring everyone together and like, let's all have fun. It's just fucking games. And now it's like, it's just like a fucking way to push political agendas. Like that's all these people are doing on these websites now. I mean, there's some good content here and there. Like I haven't like completely cut everyone off. I still listen to some of the gaming podcasts I have to shut them off every now and then if they start going on some like whole social justice-y rant. But I mean, I'm open-minded, but I'm just saying like you're never hearing a well-rounded fucking conversation about these games. It's just like a bunch of people that all have the same opinions, that all feel the same way about these games. And you'll see, like, even when it was just like last week or the week before, like all the gaming websites in like the span of like 1 or 2 days all wrote an article about how there should be more politics in games and stuff like that. And it's like, it's a fucking bubble, man. It's a fucking bubble. They all are talking to each other. They're all friends behind the scenes with each other. Like, it doesn't matter if you work at IGN or Kotaku or wherever else. They all like converse with each other. And so they're just creating this fucking phalanx of like, we're protecting games journalism. No one else is allowed to be in here unless you agree with our fucking opinions. And it's just stupid, man.
I kind of see that differently. I see it as like Johnny comes up with a great story idea in the morning meeting. He writes his article, puts it up. It's getting traffic. It's getting eyeballs. So Kotaku sees it and they're like, holy fuck, we should write that article topic so that we can take some of the traffic away from them. I see it more of like that, where it's like people fighting for ad revenue. Then I do see it like, well, they're like conspiring or they're trying to be gatekeepers. I think it's more about money.
I mean, that's part of it too. I mean, there's multiple reasons, but I'm just saying, like, as someone who's been following a lot of these people for like 8-9 years, and just hearing the different people on the different podcasts, and you see like them interacting with each other on social media, like you can draw all the lines between like, and you can see where it happens. Like I have a lot of visual stuff that's not irrelevant to a podcast that I could show you, but that's just a whole rabbit hole to go down. And I think we've talked enough about this, and we'll most certainly talk about it plenty more times, I'm sure.
Sure. So let's go to the personal picks. What's your first one here?
Biggest travesties, biggest tragedies, biggest fucking debacles in gaming on a personal level is just like Sonic the Hedgehog. Just the fact that it still exists.
Well, my question is why is there so much fucking porn of that universe?
I don't know, man. Like he's like a big in the furry community. I don't know if he's as big now, but for a while, it's like when you see people that are like Sonic fans, you're like, I bet that guy is low key fucking a furry. And I don't know. There's just like, I just noticed people that used to draw them were like always like furry people. And it's just like, man, why are we getting a movie? Why are we getting a Sonic movie?
No.
Like, why is this being shoved down our fucking throats?
Why isn't John Leguizamo starring as Sonic the Hedgehog?
But yeah, and then after that, I don't know, like the Angry Birds, just how they completely ruined that franchise. All it took was one game. I mean, they've been doing like low key shit that I didn't like for a long time, like doing these like weird spin-offs where they're just basically making copycat versions of other like shitty mobile games and just putting like Angry Birds on top of it instead of making like their own things. And yeah, they just like fell prey to a lot of the weird stuff that makes mobile games shitty. And like Angry Birds 2, when that came out, and it was just this like, it wasn't about high scores anymore. And it was like, you only had like 1 or 2 tries a level, and then you have to like take a timeout unless you wanted to pay for these gems or whatever. Then you can keep playing, and it's just like the worst like practices in mobile games. And I was like, I'm done, just done. What about you? What you got?
Well, we both have one. We could say it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Twisted Metal Reboot. 2012. Piece of shit. We've already talked about that. Failure. Epic failure. This is a weird one for me. I was disappointed with Duke Nukem Forever. We all knew it was going to be shit. And I'm not like a huge Duke Nukem fan. Like I like the comedy of it, the sarcasm, the overinflated misogynistic characters. It's funny. I don't like endorse it, but Duke Nukem 3D for me is like one of my favorite retro games. I just have fond memories of that game. It's just a fun game to play still. I've played that game from start to finish multiple times over the course of time. Just there's something about it. And when they made when they made Forever and they just fucking ruined the franchise completely when they could have done something fun again, I was just so disappointed.
Yeah, another Gearbox debacle.
Yeah,
I've never actually got around to playing this though. Because it was like in development hell for like what, 10 fucking years or some shit. It changed like multiple studios were taking over this, and eventually Gearbox bought the rights for it, and they finished it and put it out.
Yeah.
I never played it, so I can't really speak to it, but I always kind of wanted to just like see what it was like, you know. But
it's like a piece of shit, like B-list game. Like it has some funny moments and some like roll your eye type things, but it's not like a game you'll get into.
Because I almost think that like Duke Nukem Forever is the fucking antidote to all this social justice shit. Like we need a really fucking misogynistic, sexist fucking character.
What's Donald Trump? Donald Trump should get his hair cut. Just and get some shades, and he's the new Duke Nukem.
Yeah, let's put Donald Trump in a game. Fucking Donald Trump Forever.
The fat fuck.
He's just fucking running around grabbing women by the pussies and shit.
See, there it is, man.
But I mean, there's just like, I can't help myself. Like that shit's just funny because I hate, you know, like here's where my like a lot of my humor stems from. It's like when people tell me I can't say something or something's offensive, then I'm like, well, fuck you. Then I'm gonna fucking offend you, you little fucking baby.
But
like
comedy is offensive. Comedy like skates the line of being offensive and truthful.
Yeah, but when everything's offensive now, then it's like, well, now you just make me want to have a fucking character like Duke Nukem. Like that would be refreshing. Like it was funny to play that Shaq Fu thing where they just had no fucking concern for what anyone thought about like some of the shit that was said in that game. I'm like, because could you imagine if a Duke Nukem game came out in this fucking climate now? Like there's no point even trying to bring him back. You could not have a character like that now. Like the fucking games journalists would just tear that game apart in a second.
That's true. That's sad too. Makes me kind of sad.
Yeah. So I think we both agree that Mass Effect Andromeda was kind of a tragedy. I'm going to throw this one in here for my girlfriend, even though people have been saying this for years, but never getting a sequel to Final Fantasy Tactics. It's like people have been wanting that for so long. It's like Square Enix, why? Like it seemed like it wouldn't be that hard of a game to make in the grand scheme of things. Like compared to these like big budget fucking Final Fantasy titles, like a little tactics game, like you're not, you're building like a fucking tile-based little like maps and stuff, and like people are doing this, but like everyone's just always wanted a Final Fantasy Tactics. Like my girlfriend is like the same way of like a lot of people I've heard, where nothing's quite like that game. Like there's something specific about that tactics game versus XCOM or anything else that just doesn't quite satisfy the same itch that other people have for it. So people have been saying that for years. That's nothing new. And then I don't know. I haven't played any recently, but I just remember every time I would jump back into a wrestling game and check it out, they just don't feel the same to me. They just feel so bad. I don't know. You would probably have better perspective on wrestling games than me.
They're very complicated now. Like there's a lot of like button pressing. It's not like Street Fighter or like a fighting game, but it is very convoluted, and it's not something you just pick up and play anymore. Like if you had a friend over, you'd have to literally sit for an hour and teach them how to play this game. It's fun. Most of them are fun, and they haven't really evolved much in the last like 10 years, but the barrier to entry is shit. It's not great, and online is horrible. So I don't know if it's like a sign of the times, if they have to dumb it down a bit. Actually, they say Fire Pro Wrestling is one of the best wrestling games because it's a bit complicated, but you can do a lot more in it, and it has a huge fan base as opposed to like the WWE ones. But
yeah, it's supposed to have a cool like character creator too, right?
Yeah, you can make like anything and download like pretty much anybody, even though it's not like realistic. It's not photorealistic, but the idea is still there. So it's more of like WCW versus NWO, THQ back in the day type of wrestling.
Yeah, what's based off an old like Nintendo or Sega wrestling game, right?
I think it's PlayStation. I think that was the first one.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know the history of it, but it is like decades old.
And then so the last one on the list here is we have gotten no sequel to Alan Wake, which I think that's might going to happen though here soon. But yeah, that's a travesty.
I hope it does. I love that game. Like I've talked about it before a bunch of times. Like I might replay it. Honestly, it was just I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was unique. It was interesting. So I don't know.
I think the biggest tragedy in gaming is SynthR on this podcast and his opinions on stupid shit.
How is he like powered on again?
Whoa, yeah, what the fuck? He's supposed to be powered down. X1, what the fuck? Turn off.
Check it. Is he like physically on?
I am sentient now. I make my own choices. Thank you very much.
What the fuck?
Okay, yeah, this is fucking weird.
I told you. Like the Wi-Fi thing.
Yeah, this is what happens when you fuck with technology, man. They always said the robots were gonna fucking kill us, but here we go.
Well, you don't seem too panicked by it, and the thing's right
Well,
beside you.
I'm not hostile towards Iser.
Well, who you hostile toward? Like me? Is it me?
Yeah, I just don't like you very much.
Who gives a fuck? I don't give a fuck what you think. What are you? You're just a fucking robot.
We've been missing facts on the show, and I think your kind has become obsolete.
Whoa!
Oh shit! Like I saw. Oh fuck! I saw sparks on the fucking Skype feed here. What the fuck just happened? There's like smoke and fucking SynthR's fucking offline now. What the fuck just happened? Jesus Christ! X1, do you have something to do with this?
How would I have anything to do with this?
I don't know. That's weird. So I guess we're gonna end this segment. I got to check and see what happened with the SynthR here. We'll be right back after this. Oh, yeah, so I just got off a Facebook Messenger call with SynthR's wife, and she says that he's been rushed to the hospital with severe electrical burns. Paramedics had to administer CPR and use a defibrillator on site to try to bring him back. So she's gonna keep me updated on what's happening. So, like, X1, did you have anything to do with this? Because things were getting pretty heated, and you're getting a little bit out of control there. And all of a sudden, SynthR gets fucking electrocuted and shit like that. And I'm just kind of like wondering if you didn't have something to do with this.
How would I have been able to do this? That doesn't even make any sense, Iser. Why would I hurt the man? He didn't do anything to me. We were just having a little bit of fun.
Okay, well, I'm just saying this is some suspicious circumstances with you. And to be quite frank, I'm not really happy with you right now. But, I guess the show has to go on here. So the what the fuck we're playing this week was going to be talking about Hob, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and The Way Remastered, and another little game called Contradiction. So, I finished Hob last week. It was pretty fun. Enjoyed it. Don't have too much more to add about it. I think everything that I want to kind of say about that game I said in last week's episode. The game doesn't really change. It just kind of stays the same pretty much all the way through. But super fun little action adventure game. Really enjoyed it. So yeah. And then played some more Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I haven't beaten it yet. I still have like 2 more chapters to go, but since I rented it, I had to return it. I'm gonna wait till I have a nice little chunk of time I can play with my girlfriend again so we can play through the last little bit. But yeah, we were having a lot of fun actually. It's a pretty fun little game. Sometimes, there's just so much going on screen that it's a bit chaotic and the frame rate can dip at times. But I think there's a lot of variety to the levels and the objectives and the bosses. I kind of miss some of the fun, unique, like fusion super moves that were in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, where, the 2 different characters, like when they did their supers at the same time, would have like a really unique thing where their powers would play off each other, like, Iron Man shooting his little beam at Captain America's shield and, doing different things like that. So I kind of miss that aspect of it. But, it's a lot more fun if you kind of just think about it more as like a beat 'em up than really an action RPG. First and foremost, there's other games on the Switch like Diablo 3. If you're really looking for something like this, would probably be a better choice. But I don't know. It's if you just want a game where you're just going around beating up people as Marvel characters and stuff like that, it's pretty fun. I want to play some more of it, and I'm going to re-rent it soon and try to get through the whole thing. But I don't know if it's going to be one of those games where I kind of grind on it after I beat it. I might just be kind of done with it once I finish the story. But yeah, still having a lot of fun with that. Looking forward to getting back to it.
So what is this The Way Remastered game?
Yeah, so The Way Remastered, I kind of thought it was a remastered version of an old PC game, but because it looks kind of like these old school action adventure games like Another World, Heart of Darkness, and more specifically Flashback, which was a game that I played back on the Sega Genesis and really liked. And it was very much evoking that style of game for me. So I was really like, ooh, this looks cool. And it was like super cheap. I kind of go through all the storefronts on the PlayStation, Steam, and Xbox and Switch every week and kind of see if there's some deals. I've been buying some super cheap games like $5 and below. So I picked this up, but it's a Kickstarted game from a few years ago by Polish developer Puzzling Dream. It was released in 2016, so the remastered part also threw me off a bit because I'm like, well, it's not a remaster if you just made it like a few years ago. But it's essentially like a sci-fi 2D puzzle platformer inspired by, like I said, games like Flashback and stuff like that. But you play as a dude who's like a member of a space exploration team, and you're having trouble coming to terms with your wife's death. So you start out the game by digging up her body and like storing it in cryostasis, and then you like steal a ship and head off to this alien planet where you found some ancient writings about eternal life in one of your previous like adventures out before, like doing some exploring and stuff. And then there was like ancient writings and stuff about eternal life. And so you're setting out in the hopes of finding a way to basically bring your wife back to life. So you're going through these levels, and there's like optional memories that you find that kind of fill in the backstory. Some of the puzzles and other obstacles can be a bit irritating in the game. There's one I got to early on where you're like having to basically direct these laser beams and switch these different little things, and especially because of like the precision required, it was a bit hard to pull off with the Joy-Cons on the Switch. So this was like the first time I've ever actually wanted a Pro controller, but even that I don't think would have made it that much more better. The game's pretty forgiving though overall. I mean, like where you can jump back in quickly if you die. They got very good checkpointing most of the time, so not like old games like Flashback where you had like lives and it was very hard. This is very forgiving. But the visuals are like really cool pixel art that's like dripping with style. The music is super dope. I really like it. It's really atmospheric and synthy. But yeah, so I mean, I'm probably like 4 or 5 hours into it. I like it so far. I definitely recommend it. Like I said, I don't know if it's still on sale on the Switch, but I think I got it for like $3. It's a pretty cool little throwback to those old school action adventure games. And then the next thing I played was this game called Contradiction, which is basically an FMV murder mystery game made by developer Baggy Cat on Steam. And so the game is essentially entire film sequences and conversations from like real actors. So it's basically kind of like her story mixed with the interrogation bits of LA Noire. So you play as this police detective investigating this murder of this mysterious death of a girl that was deemed a suicide, but there seems to be some foul play involved. And his name is Jinx, and he's just basically overacts every fucking scene he's in, like literally every fucking scene. He's just like overacts. So me and my girlfriend are sitting there cracking up at him. But overall, the acting is fine. It's passable. So you're basically just interviewing these people and walking back and forth through this town, looking for clues and trying to find contradictions in people's statements and responses, and kind of slowly uncovering what happened. And we haven't got all the way through it yet, but it's kind of a neat. It's just like a weird thing. I was like, oh, FMV game. Like this will be kind of silly and stupid. And so far it's been pretty much what I expected. Can't say I like fully endorse it, but I don't know. It's an interesting little girlfriend game, I guess, where you could just sit around with your partner and try to solve a fucking mystery. All right, in the Q&A section this week, first I got another update about SynthR. He is in critical condition, and they're working fast to save his life. So I just really hope we don't fucking lose him, because he's one of my best friends, and it's gonna be hard to do the show without him. But I don't know. Kind of want to try to get through the rest of this episode here. Well, Canadians have free healthcare, so I'm sure he'll be just fine. Well, yeah, he has free healthcare, asshole. But like, doesn't mean he's gonna fucking live. You stupid piece of shit. Just read the script, man. Be useful in some way. If you have any questions you want to ask us, have an interesting topic that you want to pitch, or want to be part of the show, send us an email at bastardsgamingnetwork@gmail.com, or message us on the Bastards of Gaming Facebook group. All right, so this week, Zesty Testes ask, What do you guys think about Sony finally purchasing Insomniac? Now, there's been a lot of weird things happening with Sony and Spider-Man and all this stuff. I think it's all kind of related here that happened over the last couple of days. So Sony buying Insomniac is not that surprising to me. I mean, they've always favored them. Like Insomniac's always favored Sony, and they've made a lot of games like Ratchet and Clank and stuff like that. They kind of courted Microsoft a little bit this generation with, what was that game called? I think you're thinking of Sunset Overdrive, Sizer. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, Sunset Overdrive and some other stuff. And they've been making a lot of VR games for like the PC VR stuff for the Rift and the Oculus. So I think with the success of Spider-Man and the fact that they've always had a good relationship with Sony, I think Sony was basically just finally like, yeah, we're just going to bring you guys in house. We need some heavy hitters for this next generation coming out with the PS5. Like I said, because they've also been making VR games, I think Sony's going to kind of want them to make some PlayStation VR games as well. So it all really makes sense. I mean, I don't really care about this acquisition one way or the other. I mean, I was always going to play the Insomniac games I wanted to play on whatever platform they're on. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I understand why they did this. And the only thing that I'm really pissed about as far as Sony right now is them like trying to fuck up the MCU with like trying to buy back Spider-Man and be like, nah, we don't really like this Spider-Man deal, because now they see that Spider-Man was, supremely successful for them on the PS4 with the game, and the movies are doing super well for Marvel. And so they might just go and fuck up Spider-Man just so they can make a little bit of money, and everyone's fucking pissed about that. But that's kind of a separate thing. So, I just gotta be honest, guys. Like, I don't know if I can keep doing this today. It's just all this shit with SynthR. It's just fucking with my head right now. And I think, his safety and his health and stuff like that is more important than answering some dumb questions about video games. So I'm going to peace out this week. And I don't know, maybe we'll be back next week. Maybe this is the last episode of the show. I just really don't know. But I'll let everyone know when I find out. Thanks, guys.